organizations have since closed for business. As a result, the Ministry of Health advises Botswana and all the people who were receiving services from these US-funded organizations to seek such services or advice as to the way forward from their nearest public health facility. The ministry will keep an eye on the situation and will act accordingly to ensure that no Motswana who was supposed to receive a service does not receive such.
Recapping on the top story at this hour, Action SA says the number of unemployed qualified doctors in South Africa creates a bad impression that health education is not significant. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Over the last 50 years, one man has played an unparalleled part in transforming British society. This man is Rupert Murdoch. Feared by politicians, Murdoch has built the biggest media operation on the planet. His empire has given him extraordinary power and influence. The rise of the Murdoch family is an electrifying study of the Murdoch dynasty, charting the ups and downs of an empire. From the ambition that fueled its success, to the criminality that led to the closure of the News of the World and the Leveson Inquiry. This is The Rise of the Murdoch Family. Thursdays at 10 p.m. starts 13 February, only on S3.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us. Because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Zanin.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Kolisi to lead Sharks against the Lions. Nedbank Cup quarterfinals takes centre stage this weekend, and New Zealand hopeful over Henry injury for India. More details at 3:30.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse. Now, my name's Ashraf Garda. Thank you for being a part of it. Lots to consider. Fran Hilton-Smith, remember her? The women's football legend. She's our guest after 5 o'clock in what we call the Friday Fireside Chat. So looking forward to that conversation. And we will talk about the issue of the taxi tax that we spoke about yesterday. We'll get the thoughts of Santako coming up after 4 o'clock, okay? But if you ask me, what are we going to start the show with even about 2 hours ago, I would have said, I don't know, right? But there's no question now what we're going to talk about. We're back into load shedding mode. Oh my goodness. This is like part of our lives nowadays. Once again, if you haven't had alternative sources of energy in the last year, well, whether it's candles or generators, you better get them out again, because it seems like it's part of our lives. So let's do this, right? We're going to get a response from Eskom just in a moment or so in terms of what exactly their position is. But I can tell you now, if you don't know, that the load shedding stage 3 load shedding kicked in at 2 o'clock, so it just started an hour ago, and the plan is for it to continue all the way up to 5 a.m. on Monday. From 2 now up to 5 a.m. on Monday. And I understand that it comes because of certain issues of a loss of 2,700 megawatts. But let's do this. Let's get a response from the spokesperson for Eskom.
Eskom has announced that Stage 3 load shedding will be implemented from today 2 p.m. until Monday 10 March 2025 at 5 a.m. This decision comes after a loss of 2,700 megawatts in the past 14 hours. This includes Quebec Unit 2, which was taken offline after being brought back on Wednesday, and 2 Kusile units, whose coal operations went suboptimal following adverse weather in the area. Higher levels of planned maintenance outages aimed at winter preparation and meeting regulatory and environmental licensing requirements are still underway. The constrained capacity resulted in the increased reliance on emergency reserves during this week, which makes it necessary to focus on replenishing these critical resources during the weekend in preparation for the business week. Eskom is focused on deploying extra engineering resources to expedite the repairs of units currently offline. It is anticipated that 6,200 megawatts will be restored to service by Monday evening peak. The events that triggered Stage 3 load shedding occurred while the system was already under strain. Eskom's summer outlooks published on 26 August 2024 remains unchanged. We reiterate our commitment to ensuring that South Africa is in no way returning to the levels of load shedding that we experienced in 2023. 2 years into delivering the generation recovery plan that will bring an end to load shedding, we are at a challenging time, and the full force of our highly skilled engineering resources are deployed and focused. We have had some delays in returning units that previously tripped back to the grid, as well as to the return of 3 units that have been on longer term outage that will bring back 2,500 megawatts to the grid, which will happen over the coming weeks. Load shedding is a painful reminder of the past, and situations such as this drive our resolve to double down and stay the course to end load shedding. We again apologize to the nation for this temporary setback. We have to keep our focus on intensive maintenance, as evidenced by year-to-date load shedding that was suspended for 325 days compared to 32 days. Last year, electricity supply was available 98% of the time compared to just 9.6% last year. That was as a result of the deep maintenance we did in summer 2023-2024. We maintain our guidance that load shedding is largely behind us due to structural improvements in the generation fleet. While baseload capacity remains constrained, our generation recovery plan is addressing this challenge. Achieving our goal on a stable energy availability factor of 65% to 70% will significantly reduce the risk of load shedding. Eskom will continue to monitor the situation and provide updates as needed.
Okay, that's the official Eskom position. So we know that there's been maintenance issues, there's been a drop-off in supply, and therefore there's been a loss of 2,700 megawatts in the last 14 hours. And that's why you and I and everybody else will have to endure load shedding stage 3. So let me start by asking you this. What's your one word? Just give me one word to describe your reaction upon hearing now that we are into our third bout of load shedding in 3 weeks, right? It seems like that just about every week now, even for a couple of days. What's your one word to describe your feelings, your emotions? Nothing academic, just your one word. I tell you what, I went to mosque. When I came back home, my wife said, we've got load shedding. And my immediate reaction was, Aish. Met Aish. Can't be. But it is, okay? So what's your one word? Let me hear from you. You can send us a WhatsApp immediately in text message form 0614 104 107. You can also send us a voice note too. And then to call in later on, we'll take your calls 086 000 2032. But the one word in text is easiest to get to you. And you can also tweet it out. Just tag SAFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda. Right. While we dabble about the one word, let's then ask this question about, like, what's the problem? And seriously, what are the alternatives to what we're experiencing right now? Craig Morkel is with me. He's the chair of the Gas Economy Leadership Team at the SA Oil and Alliance and CEO of Ikapa Energy. Craig, thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf, and thank you for the invitation. Much appreciated.
Okay, let me ask you this then. What's your one word to describe your reaction upon hearing that we are back at load shedding?
Planning.
Did you say planning?
Planning.
All right. Perhaps you can expand on that because that will be the basis of our conversation. Tell me more.
Yeah. So obviously, we are dealing with issues that have a history to them, and we also need to look at the future. And the best way to deal with issues that have their origins in the past is through planning the present and the future. The present, I mean, there are quick fixes. You have to think of this as a car that is driving and you're trying to fix it while it's on the road, right? It's that complex, it's that difficult. And we really need to take our hats off to Eskom for the great work that the engineers have been doing. But there are certain things that are beyond their control.
So for example, I mean, if we go back to a year ago, and your analogy is very interesting, like normally the car would go for a service and actually be off limits, but they're certainly trying to do it while the car's in motion, right? So we've had that period of almost a full year without load shedding. What has changed, in your opinion, in the last few weeks?
Well, let's say that the success of the implementation of the Energy Action Plan, that has specific targets, they achieve that. And one has to give credit where credit is due. Eskom also needs to take some blame where it's due, but not this present Eskom. The present team are doing an excellent job under the circumstances, but they're dealing with old coal-fired power plants. One could say that Koeberg is also quite old. They needed a life extension program to extend the life of Koeberg. The coal fleet, as we know, most of them have an average age over 40 years. And think of a car that is running for 40 years. As much as you might love this car, it is breaking down every time you need to go to work. You're going to be late for work. You're not going to be able to do a full day's work, right? And it's the same with our economy here. We cannot put our old kit all the time and expect them to operate as if it was new kit, right? We're going to need new generation capacity, and that's where the planning comes in. The planning is happening. The planning is there for the short, medium, and long term. And what we've come to realize is, as although we have an abundance of coal in South Africa, the kit, the power plant itself, all of the equipment, the key equipment, the balance of plant, are in such a state that, I mean, they are that age that fixing them constantly might become a lot more expensive than replacing it with renewable energy and gas to power in the future. But that planning has happened to a large extent. Some of it has been executed where there's a gap right now. And I say this obviously as a representative of a gas industry association, that there is a role for gas, unashamedly, right? Because renewables on its own is not going to solve the problem. Renewables by battery storage on its own is not going to solve the problem. You're going to need the type of energy that only gas can provide. Now, at the moment, Eskom is running their gas-to-power facilities, Ankerlig in Atlantis, 1,327 megawatts, Goriqua, 740 megawatts. They're running those power plants on diesel, right? And part of the planning then is to procure alternative, cheaper and cleaner gas than the diesel so that they can utilize their present budget, which NERSA says going forward, they cannot operate higher than a 4% capacity factor. That's the budget.
Okay, so I mean, let's get some perspective. One is, we've got, traditional energy supply, which would be coal, right? There's also a move, of course, to have a greener economy. So there's been that issue too. Now you're suggesting, while we're grappling with what we have, right, you're saying that gas is the alternative for now. Now that's clearly where it's a space that you play in, right? So what is the official position from an Eskom or government position regarding the use of gas? And then tell me how it will work out.
Well, I think Eskom's quite clear about it. They see a role for gas. They see a role for gas in more than just peak demand periods to make sure that we have enough supply during peak demand periods. They're also becoming very, very clear that when there is the threat of load shedding, they can avoid it by running the gas turbines if this was a car, at higher revs, right? A higher capacity factor, right? Now, when you do that, you're then consuming a lot more diesel. What we're saying is that if you were to use gas in addition to renewable energy and battery storage, this might be cheaper than running the coal fleet, which is becoming increasingly unreliable, despite the great efforts of Eskom staff and engineers.
Okay.
They are working with what they have.
All right,
yeah.
Okay, so just the last thing on that part there, then, you say Eskom is supportive. I mean, what, and again, forgive the naivety because we're all learning every single day. At this point in time, what percentage of, to what degree does gas contribute to our overall percentage of power supply? And when you say Eskom is supportive of it, how high can it go in terms of percentages? I'm trying to look at the impact here.
Sure. So take into account that at present, Eskom has got an RFP out for gas supply to Unkellig and Goriqua, the gas turbine power plants in Atlantis and Mossel Bay. At present, that RFP says that Eskom wants to operate those power plants at a 6% capacity factor. Let's call that 6,000 revs per minute if it was a car. Mm-hmm. But it will need to, it recognizes in that tender document that there will be occasions when it will need to run at higher capacity factors of up to 30%. Think of that as, 30,000 revs per minute. If that's the case, Eskom has then recognized that there will be occasions when it will run the gas turbines higher than it presently needs to run, just to keep the peak demand covered with adequate supply of electricity to match demand in our peak periods, morning peak, evening peak.
Okay. Question is, very quickly, quick answer.
So the question now is, how soon can we do this so that it could also supply electricity to replace that which is presently supplied by unreliable coal? So we need to substitute. We need a super sub here.
Okay, give me a number. How soon? In 15 seconds, yeah?
Not soon enough. Not enough in quantum and not enough in terms of time.
Okay.
We need approximately 10 gigawatts of gas to power, running at different revs.
Craig, let's leave it at that. I think the point is made. Craig Morkel is the chair of the gas economy leadership team at the South African Oil and South African Oil and Alliance, and the CEO of Ikapa Energy. What do you make of that? Are we battling with load shedding? And again, your one word to describe your feelings. Maybe you're going to say heartful. I don't know, because that's a South Africanism. But what's your one word to describe your feelings about load shedding today?
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Mazatsanza Apitori and the Buccaneers are well aware of how close they are to the semi-finals. They both want a VIP ticket to the last four. Who will conquer the pitch battle? Royal Blue or Black and White? This is the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal. SuperSport United FC versus Orlando Pirates FC. This Saturday, 8 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Stop trying to count the days, whether it was a week or just slightly more than a week, that we chatted to Peter Zalmayev. He's the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Well, Peter Zalmayev then was abroad. He's now in South Africa. So welcome to South Africa, Peter. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. So what are you doing in our country?
Well, I came here after a grueling 6-month trip in South Pacific nations, Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, and I'm starting my African leg of my 40-country tour that will last about a year. Talking about Ukraine, promoting Ukraine, talking about why the outcome of that war matters not just for Ukrainians but for everyone, even in such distant areas away from Ukraine, such as South Africa or Australia. I will from here proceed all the way, I hope, by land to Ethiopia and maybe even beyond.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Talking to colleagues. From among media, human rights activists, and policymakers.
All right. Now, when we spoke last, short while ago, you spoke about that the deal between the USA and Ukraine, or Ukraine and Russia, just has to happen, right? And then, as we know, a few days later, we had that incredible White House interview not even a press briefing, it was an interview or a conversation between people, and we were all privy to it, right? What do you make of that, firstly, in terms of what you saw?
If you're talking about the Oval Office, I saw a very different chapter in the way America relates to the rest of the world. Donald Trump has announced a cynically transactional approach to foreign policy, as if this would be the perfect realization of his America First agenda. I have very serious reservations about that, simply because this sort of approach, while it may bring short-term benefits to America, long-term it will cause grievous harm to America's standing in the world, will push a lot of these countries towards China. That China all of a sudden seems like a reasonable man in the room, criticizing America for the way it's treating its European allies, having essentially cut them out of this negotiation process.
But the fact that it happened, right? The fact that it happened, and I know that many people were saying, well, you know what? Zelensky was so rude, and then get others saying, in fact, Trump and the vice president was so rude, right? So that happened, different perspectives. The question is, what are the implications thereof of what happened?
The implications are such that if Donald Trump says that Zelensky was rude, then everyone in the Republican administration, in the Republican Congress, will follow suit and say, well, the king has spoken. The king, whatever he says from the pulpit, that automatically becomes the infallible word of God, essentially. So this is to say that we are living in a topsy-turvy world where there's no objective truth above and beyond what Donald Trump decides is the truth. By all accounts, people I've met, people on the street, they have come up to me and they said, "Why did Trump treat your president so badly?" There was nothing rude about Zelensky's presence, but we're living in this reality that unless you grovel, kowtow to Donald Trump, you cannot expect any favorable treatment, and Keir Starmer of Britain and Emmanuel Macron have shown a masterclass in how you deal with Donald Trump. You butter his ego, you agree with everything he says at the expense of the objective truth out there, and Zelensky did a similar thing. Right before the State of the Union address by Donald Trump, he finally kind of admitted that he regretted this sort of whatever happened in the Oval Office. Whether it will help us or not is the big question. I suspect that Donald Trump is not really a neutral arbiter in this conflict, and he's very much playing on Russia's side, I'm afraid.
Okay, now, when we spoke, and I think it was the same day, like overnight, that the change happened, of course, U.S. time, right, because we spoke on a Friday, regarding what happened at the Oval Office, right? So you said at the time that a deal has got to be made. Now, are we any closer to a deal, or are we even further away? And what needs to happen between now and your sense of what is peace and just?
I suspect that Donald Trump's agenda, I think, has put us on a very, very kind of tight schedule. Donald Trump is in a hurry to conclude this deal. He thinks that the speed with which he'll be able to conclude it will get him the Nobel Peace Prize that one of his predecessors, Barack Obama, did, and that really cannot, is causing Donald Trump sleepless nights. He thinks he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. But the speed at which Donald Trump's administration is moving, unfortunately, is leading us in a very unfavorable direction to the Ukrainians. Notice how these, demanding all sorts of concessions from the Ukrainians and apologies, etc., and telling them they can kiss those occupied territories, 20% of Ukrainian territory, goodbye, whereas he has not mentioned one single concession that the Russian side is willing to make. He's just making nebulous statements about how Russia is ready to do it. Meanwhile, Russia has intensified its bombing campaign of Ukrainian cities. It is continuously bombing our civilian areas. It's continuing to gobble up more Ukrainian territory in the east as we speak. So, and Donald Trump is saying that Russia is ready to negotiate. I really don't know what world we're living in, but like you said, we're living in the world where whatever Donald Trump says is the truth.
Okay, so there's certainly a fracture of relationships between even the USA and Europe or the European Union, as we know, right? So with that in mind, just maybe answer both in one go here. There's the US-Ukraine talks to be held next week. What do you think is the likely outcome of that? And then you also know that President Zelensky will be visiting South Africa next month. So just your quick thoughts in terms of your thoughts of what may happen and the expectations from your side.
Well, once again, I think I expect Donald Trump will be quite disappointed because Ukrainians, no matter the bad position we find ourselves in, and Donald Trump has said we have run out of cards to play. Still, I don't think Ukrainians are ready to negotiate with Russia on capitulatory terms. On the other hand, Vladimir Putin does not seem to be willing to negotiate on his end. He's getting everything and more from what's happening. He's getting chaos in the serious rift in the transatlantic community, a very realistic scenario where NATO is no longer an effective organization. Everything is coming apart at the seams, while Putin seems to be doing well in Ukraine. Like I said, he's still on the attack. He's gobbling up more territory. He's not in a rush to negotiate unless Donald Trump finally shows some teeth. And as he said in his pre-election campaign, if the Russian side does not negotiate in good faith, he will give Ukraine as much and more weapons than Biden ever did. So we'll see if that happens. So, but I'm skeptical. And as far as Zelensky's trip to South Africa, it's very much in accordance with our Ukrainian policy to pay more attention to the countries of the so-called global South. Forgive me for this politically incorrect term. I welcome that. The previous Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Kuleba, has called it a renaissance in Ukraine-Africa relations. I think it's high time that Ukraine started playing ball on the continent and does not see the narrative.
Okay, and we'd all agree with that point. I would think. Peter Zalmayev, thank you for your time, Director of the Eurasia
Thank you so much,
Democracy Initiative. Until our next chat on the National Pulse.
Indeed.
Thank you. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Chanduko.
Нормально, да, стрелялся?
Right, let's get to our news headlines. It's just on 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. The South African Police Service says it has destroyed drugs with a street value in excess of 5.2 billion rands countrywide in the past 3 years. Action SA says the number of unemployed qualified doctors in South Africa creates a bad impression that health education is not significant. And Executive Manager at the Johannesburg Development Agency, Opangwana, says vulnerable groups are prioritized when looking for alternative accommodation for the displaced. I'll be back with more news at 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Melrose queuing towards Colette Drive, the N14 westbound in Lanseria queuing towards the R15 Malibongwe Drive exit. In Bedfordview, the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Van Buren Road, and the N12 R24 westbound queuing on both routes towards Gululi's interchange. In KZN, the M13 eastbound in Clovis going down Fields Hill, Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Mpumalanga on the N4, truck crash congestion reported in Komati Port area. In Cape Town, the cycle tour event happening on Sunday with multiple road closures throughout the CBD, Southern Suburbs, South Peninsula and Atlantic Seaboard areas from 4 a.m. until 8 p.m. Full details available at capetowncycletour.com. And the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Timmy, I was hoping we were talking about South Africa playing in the Champions Trophy final, but that's not going to happen. Let's get to talk about someone who's actually won a World Cup twice.
We'll talk about that maybe just a bit later. But yeah, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We're talking about Siya Kolisi. He's going to lead the Sharks tomorrow when they face the Lions in the United Rugby Championship, which also doubles as a South African Shield decider. Also back in the starting team is World Cup winning loose head prop Oxen Chair with Wilco Low, and should the Sharks win, they will be the DHL Stormers to the Shield, a trophy which is awarded to the side that tops the local conference. In football, Kaizer Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that they need to return to the habit of winning trophies, and a tournament like the Nedbank Cup gives them that opportunity. Amakhosi faced Stellenbosch FC at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in the Kiana last 8, and Nabi says that it's not just about returning to the CAF Interclub competitions, but how to get there.
Il faut exploiter les deux possibilités, aller jusqu'au bout. Mais il ne faut pas exploiter celle de Nedbank uniquement pour...
We have to play both sides. The difference is not big. Between our position and the third in the league, there is only 3 points. It's largely in our hands. For the cup, we have to do everything. It's a Kaizer Chiefs. It doesn't mean that it's only a possibility to go to CAF competition through Nedbank. No, we want as a big club, as a Kaizer Chief, to go back to winning trophies, even if we don't go anywhere, but to go back to have the habit of winning trophies.
Well, still staying with football, Samuel Eto'o has won the right to be included in the list of candidates for the Confederation of African Football's elective Congress next week. Eto'o was excluded by CAF's governance committee in January, but appealed his case to Sports Highest Court, CAS, who ruled in his favor. Earlier in the year, CAF banned Eto'o after an inquiry into breaches of its ethical and integrity standards when he took up a role as ambassador for a betting company. However, no grounds were given when CAF excluded Eto'o in January. Then in cricket, the Knights won the toss and they elected to bat first against the Dolphins in the CSA One Day Cup. The Dolphins are currently lying 5th in the table with 11 points, while the Knights are riding high in second place with 16 points. A bonus point victory today will see the Knights move to the top of the log, but their primary focus is securing the 4 points needed to just about guarantee a playoff spot. Meanwhile, New Zealand are sweating over the fitness of bowler Matt Henry ahead of Sunday's Champions Trophy final against India. Henry landed on his shoulder during the match against the Proteas and had scans were done to check the extent of his injury. And if he doesn't play on Sunday, the Kiwis may have to make a choice between Jacob Duffy or Nathan Smith for the summer clash. In golf, Shaun Norris is currently leading at the Joburg Open after a bogey-free second round. Norris is 11 under par 63, and he's followed by Simon Connor in second on 9 under par 65. Just talking about the Proteas, Ashraf, quite unfortunate that they're not going to be playing in the final. And I was just seeing a lot of comments. You know, obviously people are going to say chokers. But for me, I think it's the pressure of not winning those major trophies that moves from one generation to the next. And I don't understand how we can break through that, because just watching that match against New Zealand, unfortunately, they beat us in every single department. Unfortunately, we couldn't break that partnership between Roshan Ravindra and Kane Williamson. Themba Bavuma and Rassie van der Dussen, they did well. However, I think for me, we always put our trust in someone like David Miller, and it was just too much pressure, perhaps, for him.
Well, I mean, look, he got 100, so
Yeah,
he
he got
did
100,
well,
yeah.
right? So
You
I
didn't
think
have
it's the
enough
others.
time, I
I think
guess.
the key part is as you said, the early wickets we didn't get our way.
Yep.
What's our 7-foot bowler, Jensen, right?
Yeah.
7 foot, I'm saying, because he's that tall. He didn't pick up wickets, and that was the key in the early part. And then, of course,
that
as I had
second wicket
mentioned, once
partnership.
you're facing a 360 chase, you're on hiding to nothing. But I mean, I want to just pick up this point about the use of the word choker. You know, that is a complete misnomer. A choker is when you are the favorites. When you're the favorites, you're the dominant team in the tournament. You're expected to win. You're winning, and then you blow it. South Africa were never the favorites. And we were never the most dominant team. And we went in as an underdog. I think India were the favorites, right? And we didn't blow it in that sense. We did what I think is expected. I mean, if we blew it, then what about Australia, for example?
So you expected the Proteas not to do well?
No, I didn't expect them to win the tournament. That's what I'm saying. I think the word choker is when you're in a position of absolute victory. It's like being 2-0 up in the 90th minute and you lose it. That's where you've choked. They're not in that position, not this team. The 1999 team, I think, is a different conversation completely, right? But this is not the same team.
Not at all.
I think they did pretty well. I wish they'd won, but they didn't. Hard luck.
Hard luck for them.
Right, more sport in an hour.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
The Golden Boys want to ensure their visitors return to Free State with disappointed faces. But Batabane Bantwa are ready to demonstrate how real warriors win tough battles. This is the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal. Catch Durban City FC and Maruma Gallants FC this Sunday, 9 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, so we'll talk to Fran Hilton-Smith after 5 o'clock as part of the Fireside Chat. Looking forward to that conversation about her role in women's football. We'll also chat to Santako about the allegations that taxi owners, not necessarily drivers, but it could be the same in both cases, they don't pay taxes. Okay? All that coming up. But for now, let's talk about, well, tomorrow, in fact, is International Women's Day. Very different to South Africa's Women's Day that happens on the 9th of August. International Women's Day happens tomorrow. Now, there's a fascinating initiative driven by Wikimedia called Knowledge is Human, Knowledge is Her. What does all that mean? Nazneen Nawaz is with me, Senior Director of External Communications at the Wikimedia Foundation. Nazneen, appreciate your time. Welcome to the National Pulse.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. This certainly sounds like a very exciting program, but tell me more about connecting with International Women's Day and using the formidable muscle, I should say, of Wikimedia.
Yeah, so Wikimedia Foundation is a non-profit that runs Wikipedia. And Wikipedia, as you know, is one of the largest online encyclopedias out there. And the aim is really to ensure that it represents the sum of all human knowledge. So this International Women's Day and throughout Women's History Month in March, we actually want to showcase the work of the volunteers behind the scenes who are adding knowledge to Wikipedia, making it more reliable and accurate, but in particular those who are closing knowledge gaps on Wikipedia. And that's how we have the campaign, Knowledge is Human, Knowledge is Her.
Okay, and when you say closing knowledge gaps, so give me some practical examples of how this campaign will roll out then.
Yeah, so the internet, as you know, has kind of become the go-to place for people to learn all around the world, but there's still like a big lack of representation of groups and of people that have been historically marginalized, essentially left out of the history books. And Wikipedia, many people don't know that actually the knowledge on Wikipedia is actually reliant on secondary sources. So you can't add anything that you want to Wikipedia. It has to be based in a reliable source. And what we mean by that is either a published journal or news article. And many women in particular have been left out of history. And so less information about women and other groups actually exists on Wikipedia. And so over the years, we have been really championing the volunteers who have been helping to close some of those gaps. So this year we're spotlighting women who are, for example, hosting events to kind of encourage new editors to join Wikipedia and to write about specific notable women. And we want, we're kind of sharing those stories, the efforts that those volunteers are going to get people to get more knowledge onto the platform, because actually we also have research that shows that if people can see themselves represented on Wikipedia and in the editing community, they're more likely to trust the information that's on it.
I think that's a good point.
So the campaign is essentially there to kind of inspire and to signpost to other resources that are out there in the world to learn more about the subject area, but also how you can get involved in various events and groups around the world and across Africa that are doing this work.
Okay. Talking about Africa, I mean, you've got some names because you mentioned, featuring and focusing on women on this day. I mean, are there names you'd like to mention that that will be part of this campaign that you would be showcasing?
Oh, yeah, of course. So we've got a volunteer, for example, called Carol Moira. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who, has done some great work. I think she's made over 2,000 edits across Wikipedia and its sister projects. She's really kind of passionate about including and increasing the amount of reliable articles about women. She's a librarian, and she kind of really thinks about the content gaps, using her librarian background to think about all the content gaps that could exist. And is thinking about, looking at articles that are out there, cross-checking references, and really adhering to the citation guidelines that live on Wikipedia.
Okay.
She's also part of the group of volunteers that are helping to host an event that's hosted every year called Wikimania. And this is the main international conference that brings together volunteers from around the world to kind of learn and share from each other. And this year is going to be taking place in Nairobi. So she's doing lots of great work. And actually, she's been named by her peers as one of the top 100 editors in Africa for the work that she's
Fabulous,
doing.
Yeah. I suppose we could talk about everyone else too, but we'll probably need half an hour to do all of that. Just some thoughts in terms of the actual spotlighting that happens. Does that start tomorrow and end tomorrow? Is it a one-day thing, or would that be first place tomorrow, right? And then obviously it's there permanently, but there'll be other campaigns around it to remind people to visit these the sites and check up the bios of the people you've mentioned?
Yeah, so actually we've started now. So there's information, we're sharing information on our social media channels. If you go to the Wikimedia Foundation website, you can learn more, and also learn more about how content on Wikipedia comes to exist and how volunteers are helping to add reliable content. So that's already happening. And that's why, I'm kind of here today talking to you, but we'll also be sharing these stories right throughout the month of March. And I should just add as well that obviously this work happens right around the year, and at the foundation we're kind of year round looking for opportunities to spotlight this work right around the world, because it is so important. And I think that Wikipedia's content is becoming more and more important as technology changes. I'm sure that you've read that Wikipedia's content powers a lot of large language models. So it's really more important than ever that the knowledge that exists is representative, and that we also highlight the importance of human created knowledge. So we're celebrating the work of volunteers like Carol and others, starting today, throughout March, and right throughout the year.
Okay, sounds fabulous. Now, in terms of this audience, we have people listening in from around the world via live streaming, and then others listening via podcast. They could be from the diplomatic corps. But at our core, we are a South African-based channel here, the National Pulse. So what is your message to the South African audiences? Because you certainly want to galvanize them, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, I'm sure, like many places around, South Africa's got a fantastic history, and we know from speaking to volunteers from across the region that many of them are incredibly proud of being able to ensure that their history and their culture is represented on, the world's largest encyclopedia. And we need more people to do that. Volunteers are so incredibly important to this work, because we do have research that says that the more people that participate in Wikipedia, the more accurate and reliable the knowledge becomes. So I think in South Africa, there is an affiliated group, which is essentially an independent organization that is kind of taking the lead in organizing a number of events to increase content on Wikipedia. Essentially, you can join groups like that. You can find out more online, but we need everybody to kind of really join on to ensure that we can represent knowledge from South Africa and beyond on the platform.
Well, I'm going to suggest that you tag us, SAFM Radio, and myself, Ashraf Garda, on your social media platform so that we can share it. But at the same time, perhaps dish out maybe a website or a link that I can get people to follow.
Absolutely. You can join us on wikimediafoundation.org. And we're also sharing this information on our social media, on Wikipedia's social media channels. So Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook. Come and learn more and share your thoughts and get involved.
Okay. I will be following you. That's all I can say. Thank you for your time, Nazneen Nawaz, Senior Director of External Communications at the Wikimedia Foundation. As you heard, Wikimedia, not to be confused with actual, as you would know it, Wikipedia, but this is the foundation. And this all links up to International Women's Day, which is tomorrow, and their campaign titled Knowledge is Human, Knowledge is Her.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 Rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Get a true AI business partner from Vodacom Business when you get the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra on a Red Business 1.7 gig contract for 1,599 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 349 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Right, 5 rands can't buy you a pie and a cool drink anymore. You know that, right? But OUTsurance is still committed to saving you big bucks on your car insurance. Get a quote, and if OUTsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, Ask them for 500 rands in cash. And make that 1,500 rands if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Get monthly savings on your car insurance or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With OUTsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Let's pick up some of the key things that you asked. I've asked you to give one word to explain or your feelings about the fact that we're now back into load shedding season. It's the third time it's happened in just inside a month, right? Oh my goodness. I mean, I did say Aish, right? What's your one word?
Good evening, Ashraf. One word. Oopsie. Letswalo is London.
Oopsie, you're saying it with so much joy. I don't know. I think you should change the tone. Oopsie is fine, but be more angry or frustrated, I think.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I can describe this load shedding same like you-ish. And also I have a question, Ashraf. South Africa got the mining coal. Why can't Eskom have its own mining coal so that the cost of buying coal can be less? Because I believe that this coal belongs to the government, because the land of South Africa belongs to the people of South Africa. Therefore, the government can also appropriate the land that got coal so that they can produce coal for Eskom, and their people will pay very cheap. It's still in Cape Town. That's just my idea.
Well, thank you. At the moment, I think it's not even about who owns it. It's about we just need to make sure the systems work. And as per my guest earlier, Craig Morkel, we are trying to repair a motor car that is in motion and cannot be pulled into the garage. I think it's a wonderful analogy. I don't like it, but it's true, isn't it?
Hello, Ashraf. The assassination of the whistleblower in the Omotoso case, does it not confirm, or is it not a confirmation that Omotoso deals in the underworld? Because if that was a witness and has been gunned down, what does that mean? Thank you.
I wait for someone else to respond to that who may know more. I don't want to necessarily speculate on that issue.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Load shedding in South Africa, let's just label it and describe it as a way of life. Just like that. Way of life.
No, but it was a way of life for a few years. Then it stopped being a way of life for almost a whole year. Okay? Maybe we can't wait for the next election. Then it'll be okay. Just saying.
Ashraf, good afternoon, brother. I don't know if you've been following international news whereby Danish Prime Minister, she said, peace is more dangerous than the war. So they have to step up to supply Ukraine with weapons. On the other hand, Emmanuel Macron, yesterday, he himself said that they have to supply Ukraine with weapons. So the question is, why Europe hate peace? These people, they are warmongers, my friend. They hate peace. Why? I don't know. It's Kosana here.
Okay, thanks for Kosana. So, yeah, what do you say? Peace is more dangerous than war. If somebody can explain that, I'd like to know.
Hello, Ashraf, it's time in East London. Zelensky and the Europeans do not want to listen. I'm very happy that he was humiliated in that manner by Trump, because he was warned by Putin before 2022, after he allowed Americans to pull him out of the negotiations, that these people are going to use you and dump you. That is exactly what is happening now with the Americans. They have used Zelensky, now they are dumping him.
But then why would you be happy? You see, if you don't like Zelensky, it doesn't mean you must like Trump. Like, seriously, you'd be happy that one person bullies another person because you don't like the second person. Like, why would you do that? Just think about it. Mr. Naidu, let's talk cricket.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to say to you, I think it's about time we starting calling South African cricket authorities to answer some questions. I think so many years later, we're not able to perform at a level that I think is befitting of this wonderful country. I think people need to be held accountable. I think we need to look at it from top down. And to be honest with you, it's really difficult. I'm such a patriotic South Africa, but I'm not even watching the games anymore for the Proteas because I just am not signing up for disappointment. But I think the whole thing, including transformation, needs to be looked at because I think so many years later we haven't got there. And
but when you say the level that the country of our stature needs to be, I'm just interested in what do you mean by that, because I'll tell you why. For every country that believes it's their divine right to win the World Cup, every other country believes the same. And they're all vying for the same prize. So what I'm saying, at the best of times, it's never a guarantee that you just pitch up and you're going to win a tournament. No.
I agree 100%. But I want you to look at the statistics. We have historically produced some of the best cricketers. And I'm going to pick a hero, a national hero, and I might create absolute furore today. But A.B. de Villiers has never performed at the levels he's performed in T20 cricket like he has for the IPL. He's never done it for South Africa. And you have somebody like David Miller or J.P. Dwomini who might actually have better statistics than A.B. de Villiers, but they are unsung heroes. And I'm saying we just need to be assessing exactly this. And if you look at it, historically, we have produced some of the world's best cricketers. We have not been able to convert those results into substantial.
Well, I mean, I agree about that. We're going to have to let it go. I agree about the non-conversion. I'm just disagreeing about the fact that we think that we went into this tournament like it's a right to win. I don't think so, right? That's just what I think. Here's another couple of quick comments about, please don't, WhatsApp shouldn't be longer than 30 seconds. It makes it very, very difficult to play them. 30 seconds maximum. So I tell you what I'll do. We're going to play them later on, right? More of your WhatsApps, but also a reminder, we're going to talk about taxi tax. We did touch on it yesterday. Here's part 2 coming up after the news. Here's Chanduko Lechele.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories at this hour. Police destroy drugs worth over 5 billion and Action SA concerned with number of unemployed doctors. Good afternoon. With your news at 4, I am Chanduko Ligege. The South African Police Service says it has destroyed drugs with a street value in excess of 5.2 billion rand countrywide in the past 3 years. National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola today oversaw the destruction of a further 800 kilograms of narcotics in Cape Town. Masemola adds that these drugs were seized during police operations in the Eastern Cape and Western Cape.
People mostly, it's not small people that we arrest that are doing these shipments. It's one of those kingpins, and we think if we deal with those, we'll be reducing the proliferation on the street. Because on the street, it's mostly you'll arrest 2 packets, 5 mandrakes.
Action SA says the number of unemployed qualified doctors in South Africa creates a bad impression that the health education is not significant. This has emerged during a debate held by the National Assembly to discuss the non-filling of the vacant posts for doctors in the public sector. Action SA MP Dr. Tebogo Letlapi has urged government and parliament to swiftly address the challenge of unemployed medical doctors.
How then do we explain not employing needed young healthcare professionals? How do we get to a point where our children go into professions needed by the nation? We send them on government programs to study abroad. Some families do that on their own accord, and we tell them we don't have the duty to absorb them.
Evictions can have negative psychosocial effects. However, they are often conducted by the city for law enforcement purposes to address criminal activities in hijacked buildings. This according to Executive Manager at the Johannesburg Development Agency, Oba Ngwana. Ngwana has been testifying at the Gampepe Commission of Inquiry into the Usindiso building fire which claimed 76 lives and displaced others in 2023. Ngwana acknowledges that evictions can be traumatic but insists that the intention is not to humiliate people.
Raised by its nature, it's not a consultative exercise. It does negatively affect the residents. But if you check the purpose of the raids, in most cases they are in the best interest of law enforcement, but also to deal with the perception that hijacked buildings or illegally occupied buildings are harboring of criminal activities.
Some traditional leaders outside Luitrighat in Limpopo are disputing allegations that they are demanding large amounts of money from spaza shop owners for recommendation letters allowing owners to register their businesses. Some spaza owners in the area failed to register, accusing traditional leaders of hindering the process by charging high fees. Traditional leader Makadozin Tumure says owners who are unable to register because of fees can engage with their relevant traditional leaders to resolve the issue.
As a traditional leader, we are the leaders of the community. We are the custodians of culture. And we can never be leaders without the community. So the community members will have to go and meet with the relevant traditional leader under his or her village and communicate with and show their disadvantage. We have 700 rand for a person who's renewing. We have 1.5 for a person who is starting, who doesn't have a spaza shop at all.
Meanwhile, the Limpopo House of Traditional Leaders says it does not support traditional leaders charging spaza shop owners a fee for recommendation letters. Its chairperson, Hosi Peningobe, elaborates.
The issue of money, we have never raised that as part of the condition for this process. So whoever is doing that, they are doing it out of their own volition, which is not supported by the House. These people have applied for shops from those respective traditional leaders or traditional councils long time ago. Now it's just a confirmation. It will be a sad story if the reasoning behind of non-registration by some spaza shop owners will be linked to them not being able to pay a certain fee.
A South Korean court has ruled that the impeached president Yoon Suk-yeol should be released from custody. The court found that the warrant of his arrest over the last year's imposition of martial law was invalid. The BBC's John Mackenzie has the details.
The president was detained after a tense 2-week standoff with the police. He was charged in custody, and it was thought he might have to spend his trial behind bars. But a court has ruled that he should be released because of a legal technicality. Prosecutors can appeal this decision, so Mr. Yoon can't walk free yet. But the timing of this is significant. Although he's suspended, he is still the president here. Another court is due to rule soon on whether to permanently bar him from office.
Recapping on the top story at 4, the South African Police Service says it has destroyed drugs with a street value in excess of 5.2 billion rands countrywide in the past 3 years. For SAFM News, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Bantwana urged to go all out against Nigeria and Gallants confident ahead of their Durban City Nedbank Cup quarterfinal clash. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at Rigel Avenue, and Iskempa-Hleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, on the N3 this coming Sunday, it will be closed between Hammersdale and the M13 Key Ridge interchange from 8:45 until 11 for Eskom overhead line works. And the M13 eastbound in Kloof is slow moving going down Field Hill. In Cape Town, the M3 outbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and the N1 outbound slow moving as you approach Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg.
Day 15. Location undisclosed. Mood brave. Music Eye of the Tiger. Dear Diary, it's been 2 weeks of epic challenges against some of the most memorable and epic Survivor contestants. I have endured some harsh weather conditions, unbelievable drama, and these fire tokens have given me and the other contestants a second chance to stay in the game. Food. I feast on the defeat of my enemies. Vumi over there is busy planning and scheming, thinking that he can get me off the island. Never mind though. I will win this and take home $2 million. We're gonna be rich, Papa.
Rich
It's Goopy Wanaponani. Are you doing that thing again? Come and get your dinner, Mr. Fake Diary Sessions. We're now on Survivor. Oh, the world will fall.
Catch Survivor Season 40, Winners at War, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Starts 27 February on S3. Open up. S3.
Matsatsansa Apitori and the Buccaneers are well aware of how close they are to the semi-finals. They both want a VIP ticket to the last four. Who will conquer the pitch battle? Royal Blue or Black and White? This is the Nedbank Cup quarter-final. SuperSport United FC versus Orlando Pirates FC. This Saturday, 8 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, second hour of the 3-hour show. We have Fran Hilton Smith coming up after 5 o'clock on the Fireside Chat, which we do every Friday. Look out for that. And then we'll talk about taxi tax. And that is now imminent. We'll do that, well, any minute now, right? I want to pick out a tweet that I think is just worth talking about. So Elon Musk, you know him, right? Saying Starlink is not allowed to operate in South Africa because I'm not black. This is 2 hours ago. And Clayson Monyela, who's from International Relations or DIRCO, responding to that saying, sir, that's not true. And you know it. It's got nothing to do with your skin color. Starlink is welcome to operate in South Africa, provided there's compliance with local laws. This is a global international trade and investment principle. There are over 600 USA companies investing and operating in South Africa, all complying and thriving. Microsoft just announced additional investments yesterday. I must say hats off to Clayson for calling him out. The only argument I have with that tweet from Clayson is why would you even address Elon Musk as sir? Seriously, I think, you know what, you can admire a lot of what Elon Musk has done in terms of his technological advancements of absolute brain. But here's a concerted campaign to discredit your country, my country. It's a complete it's a one-man campaign to discredit South Africa. And he's not stopping. And he's got the full muscle of his X platform to back it up with those thousands of tweets and reposts. That's got to change. Well done to Clayson. Anyway, it's not true for calling that out. The other one that I want to just pick out on, I think is also very, very topical in the light of the president, our president, talking about the city of Joburg, and he was surprised at how, things are just not working out, right? Many people commenting, Lorenzo David saying, the president begging Johannesburg to fix itself before the G20 is bizarre. For decades, the city has fallen into ruins without a peep from successive presidents. Its local residents live in squalor. But visiting residents, or rather visiting presidents, must live in splendor. We weep. Okay, so that's another thought. I wonder if you want to pick up on that, but in the meantime, let's get to, as we connect now to the representative from Santaco pretty shortly, let's pick out some of the thoughts that you've had regarding the issues we've covered so far.
Ashraf, the issue of load shedding, I really, salute Donald Trump here by withdrawing funds for just energy transition. So Eskom must just continue building coal power plants and nuclear, because now these NGOs that were getting money from US fighting our governments in building what you call power station, now they don't have money. I think that unemployed, they won't challenge the government. The government must just continue, build power stations, coal power plants, and nuclear power plants. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's another comment. We'll play some more as well just now. Let's get to the issue of Santaco, right? So, and it's all about taxi tax. So with me is Bafana Magagula, who's the Chief Strategic Manager at Santaco. Bafana, appreciate your time on the National Pulse. Bafana,
hi, good afternoon.
Thank you for giving up your time. Right, now let's recap. We're speaking to you, Bafana, because of what happened yesterday. I had a conversation with the CEO of Outa, that's Wayne Duvenage. He was speaking about the budgets and how we can, do without a 2 percentage point increase for VAT, right? And then he made other comments that doesn't concern you directly, but then he spoke about the taxi industry. And this is what Wayne Duvenage said about taxis paying or not paying tax.
They're not taxed at all, not the businesses, not the profits, not the PAYE. There's nothing flowing through the taxi industry when it comes to them being registered as formal businesses and paying taxes.
Okay, so I just want to be clear on this because, you may well be quoted on this one. We're not talking about them being registered and then people, obviously avoid or evade paying taxes and these things happen, right? Or they're slow in submitting. That happens across the board. You're saying, in fact, at this point in time, if we asked like Santaco, for example, what taxes do you pay? They say, we don't pay taxes. Is that what they're going to tell me?
The taxi industry, the companies there are many businesses that own taxis that are part of the various taxi associations. Those companies are not paying tax. They're not registered as taxpayers.
So he's making the point of Santaco, the umbrella body, not directly them, but the taxi owners that own all these taxis, they don't pay tax, according to Wayne Duvenage. So then later on, I was joined by the senior economist at PwC, that's Kanti Pai, and he spoke about what we need to consider when it comes to collecting tax from the taxi industry.
Even when we think about increasing VAT, tax on taxes, you have to be able to trace the money. So you have to say, for example, how are these taxes actually collecting the money? Where is that money reflecting? Are they putting it in the bank? Are they making tax returns? So how do you actually collect it? It's also been the same conversations around the wealth taxes. We know that the wealthy don't usually sort of keep their money in glare. And so it's usually difficult to get the data so that you can tax, because we can actually effectively tax if we have the data of the availability of the money, knowing that where the money is sitting, how much of that money is there, so that you can actually tax it. And so that's always been the difficulty. It's not so much whether we have the suggestion.
Basically saying there's no paper trail because it's a very cash-orientated industry. He then continued, Kanti Pai that is, and he pointed out ways the taxi industry, in fact, is paying tax, just not the direct income tax or tax on profits that we talk about.
There's no doubt, Ashraf, that the taxi industry does pay tax. Remember, they pay the fuel levy. They're probably one of the bigger consumers of fuel in terms of being in the transport system. So there is certainly that. You know that they pay VAT, for example, when they taxi purchases. They certainly service the cars. Some of them have insurance. So there is actually, in terms of that, there's certainly tax in terms of as I said, the fuel levy. So there's no doubt the road accidents. So there is really, the tax is being paid there. Where the difficulty is, of course, as you've said, personal income tax may be also there because some of them can be, we don't know whether or not there are no income tax returns that are being filed.
Okay, after all of that, we had many people calling in WhatsApps, texting, and many were saying that, in fact, yes, the taxi owners as a norm do not pay tax. So let's differentiate between the owner of a taxi business that could have maybe 5, 10, 20 taxis in the fleet saying they don't pay. And then some are suggesting the taxi drivers, many of them may not be paying. Others saying some of them could be paying if they're paying personal income tax anyway. But by and large, as a rule, and I'm generalizing, many people who commented yesterday said, in fact, they're not paying taxes at all. Then we had an anonymous caller, and what he said is maybe typical of what we heard yesterday.
Okay, Ashraf, I'm part of the industry, but I will remain anonymous. As an owner, we don't pay tax, Ashraf. What we do, we contribute to the association. for savings. In an event, one of our owners lose their takes for a position, we are able to assist. But what I'm proposing, Ashraf, just to assist South Africa, I think the tax can be included on the permit, on the renewal of the permit. It can be a once-off, a yearly tax on the renewal, maybe an additional of a fixed amount. It can be 500 or 1,000, just to assist in terms of, because permits are renewed every year.
Yeah.
So SARS can tap in with the Department of Transport just to put their tax at the bottom to make sure that they are also taxed. So if your permit is not renewed, which means you won't be able to operate in the road.
Okay, so that's his thought. Now, let's get the thoughts of Bafana Magagula once again, Chief Strategic Manager at Santaco. You've heard those thoughts, you've heard those comments coming all the way from Wayne Duvenage down to Kanti Pai, and then the anonymous caller, and then many others that we're not even playing now, right? So, Bafana, help us with this one. Does the taxi industry, as a rule, do they pay taxes or don't they?
Thank you very much. May I please greet all the listeners of SAFM and thank all the passengers that are using taxis for their support. Let me start with the last caller, the anonymous caller, who called himself a taxi owner. That's not a taxi owner. There's no permit, a taxi permit or operating license that is renewed every year. Taxi permits or operating licenses are renewed every 5th year, and you will never get a permit if you are not a taxpayer without a tax number. I'm a taxi operator presently. I've got a tax number. I'm paying tax, and legal taxi operators do pay tax. If you don't pay tax, you are obviously defaulting like any other person who is defaulting. Not that taxi owners are not paying tax. We are paying tax. I've got a tax number myself as a taxi operator. Every time you renew your permit, you must have a tax clearance, meaning you must.
Okay, I think we've just lost that connection. Let's do this. Let's try and reconnect with my guest right after this.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply. SAFM music, crafted to make you feel real good. Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good, only on SAFM.
Right, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, Sunday World keeps you updated. Get breaking news, sports action, and exclusive celeb scoops at your fingertips. Read it, stream it, listen to it. Sunday World, news for all, anytime, anywhere.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, the theme is taxi tax. Do they pay? Don't they pay? There's been claims from people like Wayne Duvenage at Outa, who looks at the issues of tax abuse, saying they don't pay. Bafana Magagula with me, Chief Strategic Manager at Santaco. So we lost you with the line, Bafana, but you were giving the example of that you pay. Okay, fine, I hear that. And you mentioned that caller was anonymous, who was anonymous, who's not a taxi owner. Fine. Let's move beyond that person, right? As a rule, we're not talking of one or two people. As a rule, how many taxis are there in the country that obviously commute as taxis for business, and what percentage of those taxis are taxpayers either in their personal capacity or the business is registered in the business space? We're talking income tax, right?
Well, there is approximately 260,000 taxis, and of those, there are also some illegal who may be those that may not be paying tax. But of those 260,000, 90% of them are paying tax or are legal tax payers in South Africa. And if someone like myself, sometimes as I am a registered taxpayer who is paying tax, at times I will forget, and then I will receive letters to say, come and pay, you owe 30,000 or you owe 13,000, and I know I will not get my tax clearance to renew my operating license if I don't do that. A lot of them do pay tax. As far as I am aware, it's a rule that you must pay tax if you are a legal taxi operator. If you are an illegal taxi operator, unfortunately, you are not even a taxi operator because you are illegal. But legal taxi operators are paying tax.
So what's an illegal taxi operator? I mean, who is an illegal taxi operator?
Well, it's someone who just take a kumbi and load people without a permit, and then people will say it's a taxi. That's why I say those are actually not taxi operators.
So within Santaco, and I heard your point about that you made earlier that yes, you're a registered taxpayer, and sometimes under provisional tax you may not pay on time. I understand that. I mean, you're not unusual. Many people do that, and they can pay it later, and they pay a fine. That's okay. What the argument is, and that's come from, or the allegation from Wayne Duvenage, is that in fact the vast majority are not paying taxes at all, in their personal capacities or as businesses. Now, where would he get that so off the mark when you effectively refuting it to say he's completely wrong?
Well, I do not know where you get that from. He must prove that, because, as I say, any taxi operator who's got an operating license must pay tax. You will not get an operating license if you are not paying tax. So I do not know where it comes from, because with that statement, that statement is actually an insult to the taxi industry, because we know we are paying tax as legal taxi operators. And if he says taxis do not pay tax, it's just an assumption of those people that we know hate the taxi. And I do not want to say because it belongs to black people, but there's a lot of people that have this assumption that taxi people don't pay tax. That is a lie. That is a lie.
Why would you think that he hates taxis? I mean, what gives you that impression?
Because he's lying about it. If he say they do not pay tax, he's lying.
Okay, so let's separate the two. You're saying what you call a taxi operator, just so that I understand the definitions here, right? When we talk about a taxi operator, so we're talking about...
Put them here.
Are you still there?
Put them here, and when we say SARS, go through this.
Sorry, Bafana, we've just lost what you're saying. What did you say? Bafana, are you still there?
I say...
Yeah?
Yes, I am still here.
All right, let me just rephrase my question. I want to just be clear about it, right? So you have a taxi driver who's not necessarily a taxi owner. He doesn't own a car, he doesn't own a van, he doesn't own a truck or whatever, right? He doesn't own those taxis.
What is it?
You get that person who then earns a living from the taxi industry, where the taxi owners or the operators pay that person a salary for however. Does that driver pay tax? Okay, let's see if we need to just reconnect, because that line's just horribly wrong there. We just can't do that. Let's see if we can sort, right, Bafana, you're back again?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, so I was saying, you have a driver firstly. A driver is not necessarily a taxi owner, but he's employed to drive a taxi. Does that person who earns a salary from the taxi operator, does that person pay taxes directly? Does Santaco get involved in that, or is that completely left to that person in an individual capacity?
Well, if you're talking, I think we need to finish one subject that Duvenage say taxi owners do not pay tax.
Yeah.
Because if we now go to a driver, we will now get confused.
No, we're not. I'm trying to not get confused. That's why I'm saying I just want to get the driver part out of the way. Does the driver who's not an owner of a taxi, who's employed by the taxi operator, does that driver pay tax?
If he's illegally employed, yes, he is paying tax. He must pay tax.
And I take it that all your drivers are legally employed then within Santaco.
That is why I said we need not to divert from the subject that the taxi owners do not pay tax. We need to stick to that subject.
Okay, so let's talk about the. Okay, let's talk.
Duvenage must prove it that we do not pay tax. I say we pay tax.
All right, let's do.
And SARS can prove that to Duvenage that we pay tax, and if there are defaults, it's just defaults like any other person.
All right, so let's get back to the taxi owners then, right? So that would be the people who own taxi fleets, right? And they then employ the drivers, right? So they all form part of Santaco. And you're saying the absolute overwhelming majority, they do pay. And if they don't pay taxes, they can't cut their taxi operating license. So you're very clear about it.
Most definitely. Most definitely. You will not get your operating license if you do not pay tax. Okay. Most definitely.
Right. Now, Romeo called in, asked, do they pay tax individually or as a group?
They pay tax as individual. And those who have registered as companies, they pay as a company. Because there are some who have registered as a company. There are some who have registered as individual. Like myself, I'm registered as both individual and a.
Okay. What about right
both,
now?
And I can prove that to you.
Okay. What about forget Wayne Duvenage? So many people yesterday called in and WhatsApped and said, "Actually, Wayne Duvenage is right. We know that."
Well, if you don't know someone and you say we know them, and you talk about something that is not true, it means you are talking about someone you think you know, not someone you know. Okay. So all those people that were saying, like I say, we can pull a group of people and go with them to SARS. They pull their IDs, and then SARS can prove to you that this man pays tax. Well, if he's in default, he's just in default. And those who say taxi people don't pay tax, it's people who think taxi people, it's like people who think we are not educated. Right. Here you are. You're talking to me and being able to understand.
All right. Just the last thing, because we're on to news time already, right? I mean, the difference with Wayne Duvenage is not just somebody calling in; he's someone who's made the issues of evading tax his business. I mean, as outer. That's what they do around tax abuse, right? But fine, I hear what you're saying. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt and say, actually, you're right and he's wrong. So if he's wrong, then there's a huge defamation around the entire taxi industry, right? What would you do about that now?
Well, like I said, we need to be proven wrong or right. We are saying we are correct, and if there's any wrong, bring it to us. We will correct it if there is. But we know there isn't a legal operator who is not paying.
Right, but I'm saying at this point in time, yes, I hear you saying tell Wayne to bring the evidence, but he's publicly said that the entire industry does not pay tax. So I'm saying he's defaming the industry if he's wrong. What would you do about that with regard to him?
Oh, you mean Duvenage?
Yes.
Duvenage, like I say, that is, maybe I would say it is his own opinion, which is a wrong opinion, and he's lying about the taxi industry. And unfortunately, you can do nothing about my opinion. If I think you are this, that is what is in your mind. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. We need to find the person you're talking about and that person to agree or dispute what you are saying. Like I'm saying, we dispute what Duvenage is saying. It's a lie.
All right. Lastly, if I hear you. Lastly, if I invite both of you to an on-air conversation, would you be willing to be part of that conversation with Wayne Duvenage?
Correct. I will be. Okay. I will be willing to be part of that conversation.
Okay. That's
perfect. I will tell him in the face is lying.
Okay. Well, on air, let's do that as soon as possible. We'll certainly invite him too. Bafana Magagula, Chief Strategic Manager at Santaco, saying they pay taxes. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Chanduka Lekeke.
Thank you, Ashraf. President Cyril Ramaphosa says his proposed presidential Johannesburg working group is aimed at stabilizing the city's finances and ensure effective service delivery. The South African Police Service says it has destroyed drugs with a street value in excess of 5.2 billion rands countrywide in the past 3 years. Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Thandi Moraka, and the Limpopo Premier, Dr. Popera Matuba, have been leading a G20 summit outreach program at the University of Venda in Thohoyandou, Limpopo. Greg Holst will bring you the 5 p.m. bulletin for SAFM News. I am Chanduko Ligege.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Melrose, queuing towards Colette Drive, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a crash at Rigel Avenue. In KZN, Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park, and the M13 eastbound in Kloof, slow moving going down Fields Hill. In Cape Town, the N2 in Somerset West is slow moving at Victoria Street, and the N1 outbound has a crash reported at the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
All right, Shumi, let's talk soccer, right?
Yes, Banyana legend Anna Monate says that South African under-17 women's national team should not hold back when they face Nigeria in a battle of the 2025 FIFA Youth World Cup spot. Bantwana will go head-to-head with the Flamingos in the second round qualifier first leg at Lucas Moripe Stadium tomorrow before the return leg in Ikene next weekend.
Our guys need to be positive and not to give Nigeria any respect. They need to be aggressive. They need to play their game. But remember, never allow Nigerians to win the ball, to be in position before them. Meaning, first man in the ball. Create and use those opportunities.
Meanwhile, Marumo Gallants are confident that they head into the crucial Nedbank Cup quarter-final against Durban City FC in Chatsworth on Sunday. It will be a tricky clash for the relegation-threatened side as Durban City, formerly known as Maritzburg United, topped the National First Division, and they're looking strongly for promotion to be promoted back to the Betway Premiership. And Gallants coach Abdes Odu says that his side must be mentally strong.
Tricky team. Like I said to the players, we have to give respect to all the teams. There is not easy games, especially a cup. When you play a team which is the first in the lower division, they will come with a very big spirit and they will want to beat us. So we will have to prepare for that, and we will put the strongest team that we can in order to go through this stage again.
Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero is urging his players to keep up the winning momentum as they go into their Nedbank Cup quarter-final clash against SuperSport United tomorrow. Pirates will be without their key defender Nkosinathi Sibisi, while Matsatsanza head coach Gavin Hunt will not be available in the dugout as he faces suspension as well. Elsewhere, Ruben Amorim says that Manchester United will not give him the time that Mikel Arteta had to turn Arsenal around. Now, United host Arsenal in the Premier League on Sunday, sitting 14th in the table after a poor start to life as head coach for Amorim has seen him take 18 points from a possible 48. On the other hand, Arteta also had a tough start as Arsenal boss in the league, failing to qualify for the Champions League 3 seasons in a row before turning the Gunners into title contenders. But Amorim does not expect to be afforded the same patience as Arteta by the bosses at Old Trafford. In tennis, he may be 38, but Gael Monfils is enjoying his best start to a season in 5 years, defeating Jan-Lennard Struff 6-4 and 6-4 at the BNP Paribas Open to claim his 10th match win of the year. This year marks Monfils' best start to a season since 2020, when he claimed 16 match wins and 2 titles before March. Monfils will next take on Sebastian Korda, who is the 24th seed for their first encounter. In cricket, India played New Zealand in the Champions Trophy final in Dubai on Sunday in what could be a last hurrah for veteran stars like Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. The 36-year-old and skipper came into the 50-over tournament with speculation over when they will retire following lean patches in the Test cricket and mainstays of a formidable India side for more than 15 years. The duo retired from T20 internationals after winning the World Cup last year. In netball, South Africa Fast 5 captain Vukile Zulu says that the invitation to play in the Jamaican Male Netball Super League took him by surprise. Zulu was scouted during the 2024 Fast 5 World Series that was hosted in New Zealand in November. And Zulu says his international move affirms the growth of male netball in South Africa.
So when the email came, I saw that they're inviting me to the tournament league. So I was shocked and happy at the same time. But during the process, when we were doing all the application, visa application and all, everything was fine. I then realized it's really happening when I step on the plane. That, okay, now I'm going overseas to play. And lifting the flag high for South Africa means a lot. Being here, it says a lot about males netball in South Africa and as a whole in the country. It shows that it's really growing. So I'm really happy to be flying the flag high.
On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
So here's a quiz question. There's only one answer. Who's the most influential women in women's football in South Africa?
You're going to talk to her just after 5.
Oh, you see, you don't want to answer the question. Okay. Fran Hilton Smith. We have it from 5 to 6. Please listen on the Fireside Chat. Yeah. Right.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The Golden Boys want to ensure their visitors return to Free State with disappointed faces. But Batabane Bantwa are ready to demonstrate how real warriors win tough battles. This is the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal. Catch Durban City FC and Marumo Gallants FC this Sunday, 9 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mwekezi.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And let's get to those numbers with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Markway Fund Managers. Good to connect with you, Paswane. You got lots of news, local and globally.
Afternoon, Ashraf and to your listeners. Happy Friday, guys. Yeah, the end of the week, and the biggest shift we've seen and becoming clearer and clearer is that the U.S. economy is weakening on a data front purposes. We've seen that during the week we saw some new orders numbers from the manufacturing sector or service sector are falling, and added today we had the weaker labor numbers that showed the employment is rising below expectation. Unemployment has ticked higher to 4.1%. Let's not forget the fuel we add through the global trade wars, the fiscal discipline with regards to Doge that is not supportive to the growth in the short term. Inflation, therefore, is pointing to an increasing probability that we will be seeing inflation actually declining coming in next week as we get to see the data. Implications of these things on the market is that we're seeing yields that are dropping weaker, along with the dollar seeing lows, giving off this risk of mood, making cash king, dollar, gold a partner in crime, trading flat flat at $2,912 an ounce. Oil has made a rebound on 1.5%, still bearish, but sits at $70.40 a barrel. And when we jump into these equities on these developments we've seen throughout the week, there's still some volatility. We see the U.S. equities are trading under pressure. They opened lower across the board by 0.1%, and now they are hoping for rate cuts, looking at it in the side mirror, and especially because the Fed is speaking on later on today. In Europe, there's buying opportunity. The economy is still showing some strength but weakness for today. DAX down 2.3%, CAC over 1%, FTSE down 0.3%. The JSE is hitting weekly gains, and we are topping off for today with some losses, slight losses of 0.1%, because our industrials are down 1.2%. However, our resources has gained 1%, financials up 0.7%. And looking into the currency space, we're seeing some relative weakness across the board from major and local currencies. The rand against the dollar sits at 18.26, rand against the euro 19.83, rand against the pound 23.60, and Bitcoin is still failing above that 90,000 level and still bearish.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Paswana. You have a great weekend, and we will connect on Monday. It means now that we will have a chance to get your thoughts. I want to get a sense of your pulse, what you're feeling about the biggest issues we've been speaking about on the show today.
Who says talking never solves anything? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Tulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Are you saying that you don't have the luxury to be having these issues about pushback and resistance and the likes, because
not at all. I told them on Monday that corruption, those who are corrupt, they have no space in this new collective. Those who are responsible for factions, it comes to an end. The constitution, the decisions of the ANC must be implemented. The manifesto commitment that we made last year to our people must be implemented. Those that are not prepared to do this work, they must step aside.
All right.
Or we'll push them.
That's Jeff Khatebe. He's the provincial convener of the provincial task team of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal.
This is SAFM. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's get your thoughts. Firstly, we go to AB in Durban. Hi, AB.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yeah, go for it.
You know, I spoke about the issue of Starlink a few weeks ago on the morning program. My view is that the issue raised by Donald Duck and Goofy, also known as Elon Musk, that the South African government wants to confiscate white lands and so on, is a red herring. The real issue is Musk's attempt to sell his Starlink satellite network in South Africa. He's very upset.
But you did say that. So what else do you want? I mean, I remember exactly what you said. What else?
So this he said a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's very upset, and he has Trump's ear. He accused our government of having, in his words, openly racist laws. He wants our government to exempt Starlink from the requirement that people of color should be included in major business deals. Now, he has rejected the requirement that 30% of the equity should include black business people. Now, AfriForum is campaigning on Musk's behalf by claiming that the Starlink company is being prevented from doing business in South Africa because it is, and these are its actual words, because it is too white. Perhaps AfriForum is hoping to get a nice pile of dollars from Musk to set up another.
Well, maybe. But Elon Musk today tweeted to say, I couldn't bring Starlink to South Africa because I'm not black. I mean, that's today, 2 hours ago.
And that he said that a few weeks ago also. He said he's got racist laws. But that is why AfriForum can easily get an audience with the top Trump officials, while our poor Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool is battling to get an appointment at the White House. Can I make another very quick point?
No, but I mean, that's...
Mustafa,
no, but
Mustafa Barghouti
30 seconds, please.
A few days ago.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Mustafa Barghouti, you had him a few days ago, and he tweeted that President Trump wrote today that only sick and twisted people keep dead bodies, meaning the Hamas captives that were killed by Israeli bombardment. And so Mustafa says, does he know that Israel is keeping 665 Palestinian dead bodies, including bodies of 59 children, and that some Palestinian bodies are withheld by Israel for more than 50 years?
Okay.
So
All right.
I think that is twisted and
Okay.
and
Maybe point made, and again, let's leave it to others to give their thoughts on those comments, both of them, in fact, that you made, right? AB in Durban. Anonymous, go for it, Anonymous. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, I would like to concur with Mr. Makagula. I'm a taxi operator myself.
Right.
You can't get a taxi permit without the tax clearance. So every year I do pay.
Okay, and you pay. Did you say you're a taxi owner? So you physically own the taxi, right? Okay, fine.
Yes.
And what about the rest of your industry?
We all pay as long as you an association. You cannot operate without a taxi permit. And for one to qualify for a taxi permit, you must have a tax clearance.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Again, that's your comment, and lots of people are saying that. Others are still saying that's incorrect, but thank you for that, right? Mr. Koza in the Free State also talking about taxi tax.
Yes, how are you, Manel?
I'm good indeed, right? Go for it.
I'm good. Okay, I want to comment also on the taxi. I have only one taxi.
Mm-hmm.
I also have to comply with the taxi clearance before I can get my permit.
Okay, right.
That to me, it means that we are paying taxi. So now I wanted just to come to the point of, for you and for Mr. Donovan to clarify it. Can't you get the taxman, any representative from the from the SARS, to come and answer for that? I think that can be much better.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I stand under correction. You know, there's the POPIA Act. I can't see how SARS can talk about individuals in big numbers without them being prosecuted on a public platform. I can't see that. You know, I can't see them reading your name and say, well, we got so-and-so's name. He's paying. I can't see them doing that. They wouldn't do that.
Cool.
Unless the person's prosecuted, then it's a different story, yeah.
Yeah, that was my thinking, that can be clear all days to see who is lying and who is not lying.
Okay.
But okay, that is what is happening. Each and every year, I must renew my tax clearance. So that is how I pay my tax.
Okay, got that. Thanks for clearing that up. Okay, so we're certainly getting that narrative. Here's another from Wendy in Cape Town. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Ashraf. Good afternoon. I just have a simple question. Normally when you pay tax, you obviously do it on a record of your income. I mean, you've got this a tax return. So how does the taxi industry do that when, I'm not sure, I don't have the enough knowledge, if most of those transactions are cash, I mean, how does it happen? What sort of
No, I mean, look, your transactions, you can receive cash. It doesn't mean you can't pay SARS. Let's not assume that they're underreporting. Let's just say that it's correct. You can still receive cash and say I've earned 10,000 rands and then pay tax on 10,000 rands. I mean, you can do that.
Yes, I know, but I mean, there's a record. I mean, it's not like you're going to write the invoice for everything.
No, well, I mean, there would have been a record if they are paying, and we're getting now many people disagree with Wayne Dubonnet, saying in fact they are paying, but we'll find out. Okay. Thank you, Wendy. Right, right. We'll get more thoughts, more comments. If you're WhatsApping, please 30 seconds maximum. Don't go beyond that. It really makes it difficult for us to play as many different voices as we want to. Don't forget, Fran Hilton Smith is my guest in the Fireside Chat after 5 o'clock.
Bafana are taking on Lesotho at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium on the 21st of March 2025 at 6 p.m. for the FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifier. Come early, dressed to commemorate Human Rights Day and support Bafana for a chance to win prizes from our host, Limpopo Government and Polokwane Municipality. Gates open at 3 p.m. and tickets start from 70 Rand for adults with special rates available at 40 Rand for children under 12 at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to Polokwane, catch the game live on SABC2 at 6 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana on X and TikTok.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Okay, we have more calls. I'm going to get to some of the WhatsApp voice notes as well. Nkaka in Limpopo, go for it.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, good to connect with you. Your point?
Ashraf,
yeah.
I want to deviate from your main topic. I've got an issue that I feel our government is not communicating to the public.
Okay.
Especially the GCIS. regarding spaza shops. Why can't we tell our people, or GCIS tell our people that, look, to reduce unemployment, we need to buy from legitimate manufacturers and suppliers. So the spaza shops that are buying from wherever they are getting the stuff, they are contributing to unemployment in the country.
So you're saying the spaza shops that now will be registered, their suppliers are illegitimate, if that's what you're saying, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. All right, I hear you.
So to have a dent on unemployment, we need to buy from reputable suppliers, like you mean Coke, you mean Simba chips, or all those things.
Yeah, but what about the smaller people? You see, that's the point. You mentioned names of companies that have been around for a long time. There's whole new different people emerging in the industry. We must make space for them too.
No, I'm referring especially to foreign spaza shop owners who are selling their stuff in the shops, but the goods that they are selling there are not manufactured locally.
Yeah. Okay.
Or they are fraudulently manufactured.
Okay.
Whereas if we do the legitimate of buying from reputable suppliers.
Okay, I hear that. What you're saying is...
We will in a way, just a minute, we will in a way contribute to employment.
Okay, your point is made. All right, I'm going to move on. The point is made, right? I think you're right. They need to buy from legitimate suppliers. What we can't say is that the people you've mentioned, they're fraudulent because we don't have any proof about that, okay? Let's get on to Eunice in Joburg. Hi, Eunice.
Yeah, hi there, Ashraf. Ashraf, look, for all the problems that we have in our country, there's one thing that no one can dispute is that we have freedom of religion in this country. Every religious person can practice their religion freely. Yeah. Now, I've just been reading, it's in the month of Ramadan. This morning, in the Al Nasser Mosque in the West Bank, Israeli soldiers set fire to the mosque there in Nablus. And guess what? When the fire truck came, they stopped the fire truck from coming there. And then they went around to a few other mosques in the West Bank and set fire to the mosque and desecrated them inside. Now, and yet you have pro-Israeli propagandists who come onto the show and tell you there's freedom of religion in Israel, Palestine. My foot. I mean, right now it's in Ramadan. Muslims fast from dawn to dusk. Yet starvation is being used as a weapon of war in the Gaza and in the West Bank. Now, many people might not know that the West Bank is controlled by the Palestinian Authority. They've cut off water and electricity to many towns there. These are crimes. This is genocide. And yet you get propagandists, for example, like Rex, who will come in from Mpumalanga and will be blowing Donald's trumpet all the time on the show. This is absolutely nonsense.
Well, I mean, I hear you. Listen, the fact is people have different opinions, but that's why from a South African government perspective, I think their position, the government's position regarding understanding what's happened in Israel is well documented. I think you know that and I know that. All right? Eunice, thanks for that call. Right, let's get to some of the voice notes on some of the issues we've been covering, and there's a lot around the load shedding, understandably so, and a lot. And I asked you one word to describe your feelings about load shedding and on the taxi tax issue.
Ashraf, the issue of load shedding. I really salute Donald Trump here by withdrawing funds for just energy transition. So Eskom must just continue building coal power plants and nuclear, because now these NGOs that were getting money from US fighting our governments in building what you call power station, now they don't have money. I think they're unemployed. They won't challenge the government. The government must just continue build power stations, coal power plants, and nuclear power plants. Thank you very much.
Okay, complex in terms of who's going to do what. I hear you. Let's move on to another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. One word to describe what is happening with Eskom: inconsistent. Thank you very much. Peter Mailama Chaba from Letswatha.
Okay, I thought they've been pretty consistent in the last year, haven't they?
Afternoon, Ashraf, afternoon, South Africa. Well, the cancellation of the USAID aid to most countries in the world, it's a wake-up call to all those countries who are mineral-rich but suffering and poor, to cancel all deals with the multinational companies and rearrange deals which will going to benefit respective countries so that their citizens are becoming materially well off to augment the shortfall that has been created by the cancellation of the US aid. Major from Kotem.
Okay, and I'll get another one.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol from Durban, yeah. One word for the load shedding, I would say unexpected, especially after the powers that be said that load shedding was now under control, and all the power stations that had given them trouble were now back on track and firing on all cylinders. So yeah, for me it was unexpected. Errol, Durban.
It was unexpected because for 300 days this was like a different world we were living in, isn't it? Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, to the team and the loyal listeners across the country. One word for ESCOM, disgusting, honestly. NERSA has accepted increment or approved increment for ESCOM. And now, the moment that consumers desperately need electricity, ESCOM is just coming up with stories. In Bloemfontein, the city of roses, once again, for the past 6-7 hours, we don't have electricity. If it's not disgusting, what else? Bramoro in Bloemfontein.
Okay, I don't need to add to that. I can sense the frustration.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Wellington Zulu speaking. I really love President Trump. He's a man of action. He's very decisive. Before he came to power, that nothing was happening concerning this war between Ukraine and Russia. He came to power. You can see there is now an action. There is movement. So I really adore him for being a man of action.
Oh my goodness.
Say what you want.
I am going to say what I want. So because he's got action, you love him and you adore him. What happens if his actions are wrong? Still do?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mr. Suleiman. Ashraf, if you look at the status of this world, Trump, Netanyahu, Zelensky, Vladimir Putin makes up World War III. It is been told that bullets will never penetrate Satan. Thank you, bye.
Well, you got us certainly thinking about who will penetrate Satan, as you've said, Suleiman. Right. We're going to put those calls on hold now because we, as you know, on a Friday, we have the Friday Fireside Chat. We chat to the person who really has played the most significant role in the entire country in growing football in this land, Fran Hilton Smith. Let's get the news at 5 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Ramaphosa speaks on stabilizing Joburg finances in a G20 summit outreach program in Limpopo. Good day to you. President Cyril Ramaphosa says his proposed presidential Johannesburg working group is aimed at stabilizing the city's finances and ensuring effective service delivery. He was speaking at a meeting between the National Executive and the leadership of the city, led by Mayor Dada Morero with his mayoral committee members. Ramaphosa was accompanied by some of his cabinet ministers and their deputies, as well as some directors general and the Gauteng Premier. He explains the makeup of the working group and its responsibilities.
This will bring together all levels of government and the expertise of our various stakeholders to accelerate service delivery, to stabilize your city's finances, as well as operations and enable economic growth and job creation. So we will need to refocus on the rejuvenation of the city in all its ramifications. Efforts must be taken to make it a livable, thriving and safe place for all our citizens. We must work together to ensure that the inner city is well primed to be attractive for new investment and jobs.
The police say they've destroyed drugs with a street value of more than 5.2 billion rand countrywide over the past 3 years. The National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, today oversaw the destruction of 800 kilograms of drugs, including mandrax and cocaine in Cape Town.
People mostly, it's not small people that we arrest that are doing these shipments. It's one of those kingpins, and we think if we deal with those, will be reducing the proliferation on the street. Because on the street, it's mostly you'll arrest 2 packets, 5 mandrakes. It doesn't assist us much. We deal with those. Rather, we deal with those that are bringing in this bulk drugs in the country.
The Minister of Employment and Labour, Nkosazana Meth, has conceded that the number of unemployed qualified doctors shows that there's a crisis in the healthcare sector. She was taking part in a debate in Parliament on the crisis of unemployed doctors and frontline medical professionals in South Africa and its impact on the healthcare system.
The urgent crisis of unemployed doctors and frontline health professionals in South Africa. This is a deep human crisis that affects the well-being of our people and the integrity of our healthcare system. South Africa, whilst being one of the most industrialized nations on the African continent, remains one of the most unequal societies in the world, with about 16.7 million people employed. Moreover, the South African economy is faced with the high levels of unemployment, currently standing at 31.9% or 7.9 million.
The murder of gender violence activist Pamela Mabini's left her family devastated. She was shot dead in her car on the driveway of her home at KwaZakela in the Eastern Cape. She's also a whistleblower in the Timothy Omatoso rape and trafficking case. Her cousin, Luzuko Katkama.
You know, it's not easy. It's not easy to lose a member of the family, especially in this way, you know. It's very painful. If one can get inside, you might see the sorrow and the pain from the people who are inside. It's quite very painful.
The Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Tani Moroka, and the Limpopo Premier, Poppy Ramathuba, have been leading a G20 summit outreach program at the University of Venda in Limpopo. The purpose of the outreach program is to facilitate dialogue and public participation in South Africa's G20 presidency. South Africa assumed the G20 presidency last year and will host the first G20 Heads of State Summit on African soil in November. Government Communication Information Services, Mdeni Ndwandwe.
So we've invited all stakeholders to ensure that as we leave here, or rather when we have this, conversation, we are having a meaningful conversation that is going to benefit members of the public, students, business sector, in the agricultural sector, in the tourism sector, because what we want to do and what we're doing with this roadshow is that we take ambassadors in different tourism sites in areas that we visit to showcase South Africa.
The top story, President Ramaphosa says his proposed presidential Johannesburg working group is aimed at stabilizing the city's finances. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
In sports, the Sawa Kolisi to lead Sharks against Lions and Nedbank Cup quarter-final takes centre stage this weekend. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Eskom Pahleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In Bedfordview, the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle at Van Buren Road, and the N12 R24 westbound queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound slow moving towards Cliffdale, Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing as you approach Okavango Road, Main Road westbound is slow moving towards the Stadium Complex, and Helen Suzman Boulevard inbound slow moving near the stadium. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in King Williamstown.
The Golden Boys want to ensure their visitors return to Free State with disappointed faces. But Batabane Bantwa are ready to demonstrate how real warriors win tough battles. This is the Nedbank Cup quarter-final. Catch Durban City FC and Marumo Gallants FC this Sunday, 9 March at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC 1 and at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Human Rights Month, SAFM is deepening a culture of social justice and human rights. It's a time to reflect, engage, and take action for a more just society. From thought-provoking discussions to powerful stories, SAFM is leading the conversations that move us, because your voice matters, your rights matter, and together we shape a better future. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, so every Friday,
you're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Every Friday, we have the Fireside Chat. I speak to a person. It could be a politician, a business leader, or an activist. It could be a sportsman, as we had like Tema Bavuma a few weeks back. But today it's the turn of a sportsman of a different sort, in a way, because we chat to Fran Hilton Smith for the next 45, 50 minutes or so. And one of the reasons why we're talking to her is we had a chat, to me and myself, the other day, and we spoke about her role in South African football, her role in growing South African women's football. And I'm pretty sure, Fran, if you are there, hello?
Hello, Ashraf.
Okay.
Happy to be with you.
Thank you. And I'll say what I said then. I said I think Fran Hilton Smith is the preeminent force and the name behind the growth of women's sport in our country. So every time I see Banyana do well and do really well, my mind always goes back to you and how you try to grow the game from nothing all those years ago. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and welcome to your listeners. It's an honor for me to be here.
Thank you. How often, by the way, when you meet people, when you encounter them, people in football and people outside of football who somehow circle back to the fact that you're so significant in growing women's football?
Well, I think, I've been around for a very long time, so I meet a lot of people, and people have followed the path of women's football and seen how it's grown over the years from a very, very poor relation to now being really in the front of minds of many people with the success of Banyana, overseas players, leagues. So it really just continues to grow and amaze me.
And when you meet people that don't know you at all, like they don't even know your involvement in football, and they somehow find out about it, what do they say about you?
Well, I always try and give people a snippet or so of something interesting from my life, with music as well as with football, having met President Nelson Mandela twice, with Banyana and with my band. I try and quickly inform them that I've been fortunate to have lived a good life and experienced a lot of things that many people would like to, I think.
And to go back again to the people that know you, when they do see you, when they recognize you, what's the one word, if you can pick out a word, that's the most common thing they tell you about yourself?
I would say three words, leaving a legacy. I think that's what has been my driving force, is to change the lives of women in football, players, as well as women in coaching, refereeing, administration. I wanted to leave a legacy and be remembered as someone who tried to make a difference in the lives of women and men. I coach a lot of men. I have a lot of coaches, male coaches, who I've worked with over the years, Molefi and Solly and so many. So I've tried to help to make a difference in as many lives as possible.
So let's then go back in terms of understanding what is it that you do. So I made the point that you are, in my opinion, the preeminent force in women's football in our country. But I'll leave it to you to explain why that statement is so true. What has been your role in women's football?
Well, from the early days when I was playing in provincial, I played for Eastern Transvaal for 10 years, provincial. Then got into coaching, and then started working at South African football. We affiliated to them when we got back into FIFA. And I realized that there was a big future for women's football. It was always a struggle. It's still a struggle because it's seen as the poor relation, and sponsors don't want to come on board. It's amateur, etc. But I was determined to try and make a difference, and I started with Banyana, coached them, coached under 19s, and later on I decided to get some of the former Banyanas and try and train them as coaches, which I did because there weren't any women coaches. I was the only one. And now we have 24 women who have their CAF A, who are coaching all the national teams as women coaches. Banyana, Desiree, Jabali, Maud, Simpiwe, Lutlu. We have so many highly qualified women coaches, and I also look to develop women administrators. So we did a lot of FIFA courses, and I think my biggest achievement and my biggest dream, which has come true, was to have a high performance center for girls, and now it's since 2001 we opened the High Performance Center in Pretoria, and it really is what has made the difference for Banyana, because when the team won the WAFCON to become African champions, which they are, 14 of the girls came from the High Performance Center, and when they went to the World Cup, 15 came. So having a High Performance Center has made a big difference to Banyana. So their success is not just an overnight sensation. It's years of very hard work, long-term player development, continuity, etc. And of course now it's resulted in so many of the players playing in Europe and making a really good living out of football.
Well, all that started with you. How did you get, I remember, and this is the point I was telling Tumi, I remember when I was involved in a junior football club in Mayfair, and I was the chairman of the club, but like under 6, under 10, under 12, and I think what is called the Witwatersrand Football Association was just formed at the time, the WFA, under a person by the name of Musa Leher. I remember you came to that event and you spoke there. Yeah, and that's the first time I saw you, and you was this woman telling this group of men that we must grow women's football. And I'm like, that's like so far-fetched. Where's this going to happen? We can't even get... But the fact is you did it, and that is why that's so admirable that whatever you set out to do at that time, it actually happened, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. It's sometimes I just look back and I can't believe that it actually happened, because we started, as you're saying, from small beginnings. But I was very fortunate that when I was coaching Banyana back in 2000, 2001, I took the team from nowhere to second in Africa, and FIFA, the World Football Body, contacted me and said, "Who are you? Where do you come from?" And said, "Would I like to come and work for them and come and do the reports at World Cups, travel around the world coaching coaches?" And that's where I realized how big the women's game could be, especially in the USA. They were champions over and over again. I camped with them. And that's where I realized that we had some of the best players in the world, natural, skilled ladies, and we just needed to do something about it. And so I made that my life's mission, to get Banyana where they are now, African champions at the last World Cup. They were in the last 16, which has never happened. It was really a miracle when you think that we went through ahead of the big guns, USA, China, Japan, Sweden, England, etc. We got to the last 16. And our players are earning huge amounts of money now, playing professional. So I never dreamt in my lifetime it would all come true. But it has.
So when when Banyana won the Women's African Cup of Nations, I think we beat Morocco in the final, if I'm sure
That's
we did.
correct,
Right?
yes.
I mean, we were obviously, what is interesting when you're watching the game at home, you don't even differentiate between whether they were male players or female footballers. They just footballers from your country. You don't even compare that. Like it could be cricket one day, football another, rugby the next day. That's just your team. And it is just so wonderful. I'm looking at, my own home, getting behind the Banyana team and then, of course, winning it, right? And, of course, we were as thrilled as, when the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup, right? Or when we qualified for, the FIFA World Cup the very first time with Bafana. But when we won that World Cup, I mean, you were there, right? You were at the grounds. You were part of the team. Because I think I saw you. What were you thinking at that time, in that moment when we actually won it?
Well, it was really something I'll never forget in my whole life, because forever in the day since we got back into CAF and FIFA, all we wanted to do was win the African Women Championships. I mean, that was the cherry on the top. And we were always tipped at the stumbling block by Nigeria, of course, year after year. And when we were there now, at the one that we walked away with the trophy, I just couldn't believe that I was sitting there with 50, 60,000 people in a packed stadium witnessing finally something we'd all dreamt of for years, that Banyana would be the African champions, which they are. So I was working for CAF, then doing the technical reports. I was on the CAF technical committee for about 10 years, so went to all the championships. And it was really a dream come true, I must say.
Now, of course, doing the technical reports, I would take it you're a lot more neutral on the day. Did you ever wish, because, you have coached Bafana before, right? Banyana before, that is, right? Did you ever wish at that time, you had Desiree Ellis there, but just in the moment to say, can you imagine if I was the coach of this team? Did you think that?
Yeah, of course. You always want to be the coach of a winning team. I think that's any coach's dream. And I think that it was just so great that we had a South African woman coach in Desiree, who was the Banyana captain for many years, taking the team to the victory and becoming, therefore, the coach of Africa a number of times. So everything just seemed to fall into place, and that's what, when I was young, when I started out, where we were wearing old Bafana kits and had no money and was sent off to darkest Africa with nothing. I always dreamt that one day we would achieve this, and lo and behold, it's happened.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I want to go back to your early days, like when you first kicked the football in your life as a player, and we'll find it out in a moment. My guest is Fran Hilton Smith. She's part of today's Fireside Chat.
Mzansi Africa. SABC Sport is searching for talented football commentators. Are you knowledgeable and passionate about football commentary? Are you a great storyteller of the beautiful game?
That's why they're very good in controlling the ball and keeping it in minutes.
Submit a 2-minute commentary clip in your South African language of choice to commentator@sabcsport.co.za. Also email your full name, surname and contact details. Closing date is on Friday, 7 March 2025. Only shortlisted candidates will be invited for the second round of auditions at SABC Studios in March. SABC Sport. For the love of the game. The Seagulls want to play their hearts out to secure maximum points on home soil.
And Pedro could be in here. Pedro's 1-on-1. João Pedro! That is impeccable.
Meanwhile, the Cottagers understand the power of 3 points. They want a comfortable top half position.
Back in, Raul. Yes! It's been coming. What a piece, and we deserve that, Fulham. That's a great finish from Raul. It was a great move.
This is the Premier League. Expect Experience the spectacular action between Brighton and Hove Albion FC and Fulham FC. The Saturday 8 March at 4:30 p.m. Live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
When it's a male who makes the money, we don't seem to have much of a problem. You know, as a wife, as a girlfriend, you kind of like go along. He gives you petty cash to do what you need to do. But when it is now the woman who makes money, and to try and give your partner pocket money, it almost feels as though we're breaking the rules.
We all grew up with a certain understanding of what a man is. We all grew up with a certain understanding of what it is that makes a man a man. So here you are, the thing that you assert and say, this is what makes me a man. I pay the bills in this house. I do A, B, and C. All of a sudden, you can't do that. You are no longer that guy.
Our relationship coach and author, Linda Yende.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM. SAFM. Prime time all day long. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So we continue chatting to Fran Hilton Smith as part of our Friday Fireside Chat. As always, we can take maybe 2-3 calls. So calls, WhatsApp, voice notes, you can do so now. 086 000 2032 to WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107. You can also tweet. Just tag SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda, right? By the way, just before we get back to Fran, I have to read this tweet from Donald Trump because it so impacts our country, my country, yours. So this is today. He said, South Africa is being terrible. Plus, to long-time farmers in the country. So let me just rephrase. South Africa is being terrible plus, which means terrible and more, I don't know, to long-time farmers in the country. They are confiscating their land and farms. And much worse than that, a bad place to be right now. And we are stopping all federal funding. To go a step further, any farmer with family from South Africa seeking to flee that country for reasons of safety will be invited into the United States of America with a rapid pathway to citizenship. This process will begin immediately. That's Donald Trump. Let's get back to Fran Hilton Smith. Fran, you have an opinion on Donald Trump, by the way?
Well, I think he's certainly changing things that we can't get away from. The world's in turmoil. Everything is changing, so we have to just brace ourselves and see where this will ever end, really.
And what do you think about what he's telling people about South Africa?
Well, there's so many conflicting stories, and, we just hope we can get to the bottom of what is actually going on, because we've always had good relations with America, and we need to continue having good relations with countries. So I just hope that in the long run, sanity will prevail.
And the question is, what is sanity? Don't answer that. That's another question, by the way. Let's go back to your sanity about how did you get to play football in the first place? Take me back to the early days.
Well, when I was young, my father was a footballer, and when I was young in the area where we lived, there just seemed to be a lot more boys than girls, and they were playing football. So I tagged along, and of course had to be the goalkeeper because nobody wanted that position. And slowly I started wheedling myself into the team and became a very good left-footed left wing. I was fast, tall, and playing with the boys, of course, in my youth stood me in very good stead. So when I later on in life joined some women's football teams, I was already well developed and could play provincial, got selected for the national team. But of course, with apartheid in the time, we were suspended from FIFA. But I spent most of my youth playing football and all sports. I was quite sporty, thanks to my parents. But then got into coaching and administrating, was SAFA technical director, was on the CAF technical committee for 10 years. So I really rose up the ladder, but it was a struggle. It wasn't easy for a woman to achieve anything.
I'll touch on those things. Who introduced you to football in the first place? Like when you were this young girl playing, and this was what is called Eastern Transvaal, am I right? Yeah?
That's right, yes.
So, what was football part of your family, like they played, or were you introduced to the game by chance?
Yeah, my dad was a player. He played football, and when I was growing up, I was very fortunate that when I was about 13 years, 14, we lived in Germiston opposite the Drew Kelly's soccer ground. So we would see football day in and day out. The soccer balls would come flying into our yard. We could walk into the stadium and play on the field. So that's where I got a really good grounding.
Okay, wow, that's interesting, right? And then you said, you played and you realized you were pretty good and you were quite formidable. How long did you play for then? How far did you take your playing career?
Well, I played most of my life and represented Eastern Transvaal at provincial level for 10 years as a player. So I really made a mark there. And then, as I say, got more into coaching because there weren't any women coaches. When I first started I remember the early days, we had some courses with the KNVB and England and whatever, and all the big boys from here would come, Shakes, Mashaba, Trot, all the big names, and little me, Fran, running around. But because I was a good player, I was accepted into the ranks because I could play. So that enabled me to progress and get all my qualifications and coach the national team, become a FIFA CAF CASAFA instructor. That's what I've done for most of my life, is travel around the world coaching coaches and writing reports for the World Cup. So thanks to football, I've seen the world.
Well, and the world has seen you. We'll continue talking to Fran Hilton Smith as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. As I said, maybe time for 2-3 calls if you're up for that. Particularly if you know Fran, that's great. If you do, like paying tribute to her, that's wonderful. But it doesn't have to be. 086 000 2032. But if you certainly want to praise her and compliment her, this is really a time to celebrate her. You can do that. WhatsApp, text, or voice note 0614 104 107. This is the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg Hose.
Quick look at the headlines. The health ministers reiterated that the law requires that all qualified doctors complete an internship at public hospitals before getting permanent employment. President Ramaphosa says his proposed presidential Johannesburg working group is aimed at stabilizing the city's finances and ensuring effective service delivery. And US President Donald Trump has launched his latest broadside against South Africa in a social media post, directly offering South African farmers and their families safe refuge in the US survey. I'll have all those details and more at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N14 westbound in Lanseria is queuing towards the R512 Malibonga Drive exit. Summit Road westbound in Midrand has delays at Blue Hills. The R21 southbound in Tembisa has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions near the Engine 1 stop. And Daspo Tunnel in Pretoria is queuing at the tunnel. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The M13 eastbound in Kloof is slow-moving going down Fields Hill, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow-moving going through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 outbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound is slow-moving towards the N1 Koeberg interchange, and the N1 outbound queuing as you approach Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapeli.
Right, Tumi, what are we going to talk about now?
Well, we start off with rugby. Siya Kolisi will lead the Sharks tomorrow when they face the Lions in the United Rugby Championship, which also doubles as a South African Shield decider. Also back in the starting team is World Cup winning loosehead prop Oxen Chair with Wilco Low. And should the Sharks win, there will be DHL Stormers to the Shield, a trophy which is awarded to the side that tops the local conference. In football, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that he's banking on their previous success against Kukune United to help them win when they meet in the Nedbank Cup quarterfinal at the Lucas Muribe Stadium tomorrow at 8 p.m. While Kaizer Chiefs will be looking to advance to the last four of the Nedbank Cup when they play Stellenbosch FC at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. And coach Nazruddin Nabi stresses that winning this match is crucial.
Nous allons rencontrer une grande équipe qui est encore en course pour la CAF, je pense. Hein?
It's true that we are playing against a big team that is still even in CAF Confederation Cup this season with inexperienced technical staff. We believe that it's going to be a very, very tough game. We don't believe for 1 second that the last two positive results that we got against them are going to count on this one. Even those they were very, very tight, we expect a very tough game, a very tough feature, but we are here as well to defend our chances, and we will do everything possible to make a good performance, to try to go as far as we can in this Nedbank Cup.
Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero is urging his players to keep up the winning momentum as they go into the Nedbank Cup quarter-final clash against SuperSport United tomorrow. Pirates will be without their key defender Nkosinathi Sibisi. Well, Matsatsanza head coach Gavin Hunt will not be available in the dugout as he faces suspension as well. Then Marumo Gallants are confident as they head into the crucial clash against Durban City FC at Chatsworth on Sunday. It'll be a tricky clash for the relegation-threatened side as Durban City, formerly known as Maritzburg United, topped the national First Division side, league rather, and are looking strongly for promotion back to the Betway Premiership. Then the Hollywood Bet Super League continues this weekend. TUT Matsatsanza ladies and First Touch ladies are expected to deliver a tightly contested match, while JVW face an uphill battle against Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. Meanwhile, Samuel Eto'o has won the right to be included in the list of candidates for the Confederation of African Football's elective Congress next week. Eto'o was excluded by CAF's governance committee in January, but appealed his case to sport's highest court, CAS, who ruled in his favor. Earlier in the year, CAF burned Eto'o after an inquiry into breaches of its ethical and integrity standards when he took up a role as ambassador for a betting company. Elsewhere, Ruben Amorim says that Manchester United will not give him the time Mikel Arteta had to turn Arsenal around. United host Arsenal in the Premier League on Sunday, sitting 14th in the table after a poor start to life. As a head coach for Amorim has seen him take only 18 points from a possible 48. On the other hand, Arteta also had a tough start as Arsenal boss in the league, failing to qualify for the Champions League 3 seasons in a row before turning the Gunners into title contenders. But on Amorim's side, he feels that he doesn't expect to be afforded the same patience as Arteta by the bosses at Old Trafford. In cricket, New Zealand is sweating over the fitness of bowler Matt Henry ahead of Sunday's Champions Trophy final against India. Henry landed on his shoulder during the match against the Proteas, and scans were done to check the extent of his injury. And if Henry doesn't play on Sunday, the Kiwis may have to make a choice between Jacob Duffy and Nathan Smith for the Summit clash. Then finally, former Comrades Marathon champion Nick Bester believes that defending Two Oceans Marathon champion Unalin Konkobe is the favorite to win this year's 56-kilometer race. Konkobe will be gunning to retain his crown at the 54th edition of the race, which is set for the 5th of April.
Nice.
ready. He's very ready for that race. I just spoke to his coach this morning. He's ready. So he's the man to beat. His coach will be with him. He's traveling with him. He's calming him down. He's doing everything. So we make sure that he will be relaxed.
On the note, it's a wrap from my side. All the best for this weekend, Ashraf.
Yeah, what's your plans?
I'm literally watching football this weekend.
And you're not working?
I'm not working.
What's your message to Fran Hilton Smith?
She must keep going. She's a hero. And I think for me, what I'd like to know from her is just to know her thoughts on the standard of Hollywood Bet Super League in the country and at the rate it's growing or not.
Okay, because I mean, you're very involved in women's football in terms of the
Yeah.
coverage, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're just going to be watching football and relaxing.
I'm watching football this weekend.
I need to work out. I'm doing some.
What are you doing? Yes.
I'm doing some fundraising pledges on a community television channel, so I'm pretty hectic at night, 2 nights or one afternoon. In between that, trying to watch some football if I can, but I'm also fasting, and that makes it very difficult. And as you can hear, I'm probably sniffing away a little bit now, so I need to find a way to just rest. How I get all that together, I don't know. We shall see.
You need to find rest one way or the other. From my side, Tumin Khapele, Mudimugyo.
Over the last 50 years, one man has played an unparalleled part in transforming British society. This man is Rupert Murdoch. Feared by politicians, Murdoch has built the biggest media operation on the planet. His empire has given him extraordinary power and influence. The rise of the Murdoch family is an electrifying study of the Murdoch dynasty, charting the ups and downs of an empire. From the ambition that fueled its success, to the criminality that led to the closure of the News of the World and the Leveson Inquiry. This is The Rise of the Murdoch Family. Thursdays at 10 p.m. starts 13 February, only on S3.
Are you a member of a Stockfell or Burial Society? Catch Gezaka on SABC2 on Wednesdays at 12:30 midday and at 10:30 at night, and again on Saturdays at 12:30 midday. The repeat is on SABC1 on Fridays at 4:30. Gezaka team will be at Newgate Mall opposite Bree Taxi Rank from the 6th to the 31st of March from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. to assist your Stockfell or Burial Society. Call or WhatsApp on 081-596-1065. The Facebook profile is Gezaka Stockfell and Burial Society's show. Gezaka, brought to you in partnership with SABC Education.
The pressure is mounting in the second half of the league. Both SC Freiburg and RB Leipzig refuse to bow. They want to triumph to protect their top half positions. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Experience the German way of the beautiful game. Sporting Club Freiburg versus RB Leipzig on Saturday, 8 March at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, and to get us all those facts and figures, Jimmy Moyaha, what's on the show today? No, we don't have a show today. It's for, I need to remember. So you have to just tell us what's the big stories without the show today.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Well, the big news seems to be U.S. data. We got U.S. jobs numbers this afternoon, along with the unemployment rate. We also got similar numbers out of Canada, and it looks as though the unemployment rate in the U.S. has edged up ever so slightly to the 4.1%, and the jobs created missed targets, but ever so slightly as well. The markets have reacted to that. We saw that the rand was quite stronger a little earlier in the day. It's still gaining a bit of ground against the US dollar. It was at 18.08 at some point. It's currently at 18 rand 23. It's gaining against the Australian dollar as well at around 11 rand 60 or so, but it is still a little weaker against the euro and the British pound. If we look at some of the equity markets, US markets have been a bit of a mixed bag, up and down. So they were in the green, then they were in the red. Now they're kind of flat at the moment, but all the other markets kind of finished in the red for the day. European markets as well, and the Nikkei from an Asian market perspective was the biggest loser on that front. Our own local markets had somewhat of mixed reactions to some of the data points, but finished in the the green, and that's a positive. So the top 40 and the all-share were up about 1/3%, largely driven by the 2% plus gains in resource counters, whilst the financial sector stocks were in the red and industrials were slightly in the green as well, about 1/3% there. If we look at the commodities pricing, the gold price fighting back again above $2,920 a fine ounce, and the Brent crude sitting at around $70 a barrel, didn't manage to stay below that $70 level. But platinum and palladium looking positive as well, sitting around the $950 to $970 range still. None of the two commodities are back above $1,000 an ounce yet, and when we look at Bitcoin, that's now below 90,000 yet again, but still with the rand-dollar exchange rate above 1.6 million rand. Next week, we look forward to the budget speech. We hope it happens finally. That's what's going to be the big driving news from our side on the show. We're going to be building up to it on Monday and Tuesday, and the speech will be delivered on Wednesday as expected. Hopefully nothing goes wrong from that perspective, but other than that, we take the slight win on the local front and the stronger rand against the dollar ahead of the weekend. Hopefully that momentum continues going into next week. But for now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. You have a great weekend and a no-show Friday now that we know, right? Absolutely. I think John Herrick is in the house. He comes up at 6 o'clock reflecting on this week that he is and was, right? Okay, let's get your calls. We continue chatting now to Fran Hilton-Smith.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Hi everyone, I'm Dean McPherson, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. In the State of the Nation reply, I announced that we're releasing 31 state-owned properties for redevelopment that will generate 10 billion rand in investment and create 165,000 new jobs. These public-private partnerships will help us realize our dream to turn South Africa into a construction site. To achieve this, the department in 2025 will be leveraging reforms in infrastructure development through Infrastructure South Africa, release requests for proposals to redevelop our small harbours, which will create tens of thousands of new jobs, as well as reforming the expanded public works program to ensure it becomes a genuine stepping stone to permanent employment. We are accelerating efforts to get more cranes in the sky and more shovels in the ground. Our department is working for you and with you to build a better South Africa for the future.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, we're chatting to Fran Hilton-Smith, the Friday Fireside Chat. So, Fran, you may have heard Tumi, our sports anchor, saying, in fact, we're asking you, getting your thoughts on the Hollywood Bats Women's League, right? What's your thoughts on the status and the standard of that Women's League now?
Well, of course, for many years, the backbone, the lifeblood was Sasol, and now, of course, Hollywood's come along, taken it to a next step. But I think we need a professional league. That is just got to happen, because you find that for the teams that have big sponsorship like Sundowns, TS Galaxy, etc., the varsities, UWC, TUT, they can get along. But for the other teams, JVW, Durban Ladies, all these teams, it's a big struggle to be traveling, moving around, and you need a standard kind of level of competition. So it's absolutely wonderful. It gives the girls opportunities to play and prepare for like Banyana coming up now. But we certainly need, we hope, a professional league at some point.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think really it has to escalate, isn't it? Okay, let's get to some comments from you, the listener.
Hi, Ashraf. JJ against Expert. Hey, thank you for bringing that very, very respectable Hilton Smith. The only thing I can say about that lady is that ule kawekazi umusupatsela. She must get an order from the president.
Okay, interesting. National order. But you have, thank you for that. Friend, I mean, you have been acknowledged in some form, like South African Sports Awards. Maybe just go through it very quickly. What are the big awards you received and acknowledged for?
I was awarded the Steve Treaty Lifetime Achievement Award by government. That was a massive honor. I'd worked with him back in the day. Last year I was awarded the COSAFA Lifetime Achievement. So I've been very fortunate. Of course, I'm just waiting now for my doctorate. Then I think I've covered all the bases.
Okay, and that call, saying like you need to get an order from the president, the annual award orders, national orders, something you'd like?
Yeah, of course. I think for anybody that's the dream. So I'm certainly hope that happens in my lifetime. But I've been acknowledged really many quarters, so that makes me really happy.
Okay, that happens soon. We'll play back this conversation that you and I are having anyway, right? Here's another caller, an anonymous caller. Hello.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yes, hi.
And hello, friend. Desiree Alicia.
Ah, there we are. not like the Desiree Alice.
Doctor.
There we are. I'm going to take a back seat, Desiree. You can talk to Fran yourself. Let me just chill here.
Actually, Fran and I played against each other in the interprovincials years ago. She was a left winger of note. And then, of course, I went into coaching. She coached me while I at Banyana. When we won our first trophy in 2002 at the COSAFA Cup, it was the coaches and you told me was the coaches. But I think we cannot thank Fran enough for what she's done for women's football. I don't think we need to have an attitude of gratitude because Fran has run the race, fought the fight, and created opportunities for us. I was part of that first group of A-licensed coaches. And besides that, she's always supported us in the way. And I think the biggest moment for me was when we won the WAFCON. I remember playing sitting in WAFCON and I could see the tears in the eyes and the proudness, and to welcome. I think that was the biggest thank you we could give to someone like Fran, who paved the way for us, and we are her legacy, We are her legacy. She pushed for women causes and administrative causes and that. So we are her legacy. So we are keeping that legacy of Fran alive, and I don't think we can give her a bigger thank you. Than winning the World Cup and going to the World Cup, because I'll thank you to Fran for everything that she's doing, that she's done and that she's still doing. And she's always there to lend the ear. I can always pick up the phone and speak to Fran and she'll give me very good advice. So she's one of those women that I can always knock on a door and always ask for advice. So I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Fran. I don't know how big we can thank. It's the order from the president, then so be it.
No, beautiful.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ah, come on. You've got to say more than that, friend. Not like I appreciate it. Come on, man.
Desiree, what I was so excited about was to create opportunities for women in football. And so many have grabbed it with both hands, like Desiree, Shalina, Simpiwe, everybody, and run with it. And that makes everything worthwhile, that I can see these coaches are reaping the rewards and the success of the struggles, and that's the point.
Yeah, beautiful. Desiree, when we reflect on the history of women's football in our country, and the name Fran Hilton Smith, Desiree Ellis will also come up. I know that too. But when the name Fran Hilton Smith comes up on the history of women's football, how do you think history is going to judge her?
I think she deserves a very big thank you. I think people way back, and this is like really way back, and Fran maybe don't want to talk about things like that when her life threatened and all of those things. Fighting for women's football, but that was way back, and she stood her ground. She was fighting for women's footballers to get opportunities, and look where we all are now. If Fran had just given up at that time, we cannot say how lives would have turned out or how women's football would have turned out. But Fran stuck around. Fran created opportunities. Fran made sure that whoever comes, the coaches, whoever comes, that she created that opportunity for everyone. And I say, again, we are living her legacy. Her legacy is alive, in us because of the opportunities that she created and given to us.
Yeah, good point. Okay, Fran, final thoughts just to say goodbye to Desiree. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, good luck, Desiree, in defending the WAFCON. We're all behind you, of course. It's going to be tough. Other countries also growing. Many players from them also playing overseas, but I'm sure with the players you have, with your abilities and your technical team, we can hopefully go and defend our title there in July. So from me, absolute best of luck.
Thanks, Fran. Thanks for the support and thanks for the faith in all of us.
And we'll be supporting you and the team, Desiree, and hoping that you can replicate what happened when you beat Morocco. Would love that, absolutely. Love talking to a champion. Both of you are champions in many ways. That's Desiree Ellis. So let's continue. So, ladies, friend, just some quick questions to you and your quick thoughts. I mean, is there a person, a young person that you really admire, that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, there's so many coming through the ranks now. It's hard to identify one, but I'm certainly so happy to see immense talent emerging in the teams, in the leagues, whatever, and new coaches coming on board like Dunga and young coaches coming up and making a difference. And that's what it's all about, is for women to stand up and be counted and take their rightful place, especially the young ones.
Okay. And is there a person that you'd like to take out to coffee? You haven't yet had that privilege, and you would do anything in the world to do that if you could?
Well, there too, I didn't have coffee, but my role model was Nelson Mandela, and I was very happy to have met him with my band, Basadi Women of Jazz, and also with Banyana. He met us, but he was certainly the one I wanted to have coffee with and managed to meet him. And I think his inspiration of our sport can change the world is still something that hasn't been uttered again or repeated, and is still, for me, the most valuable thing, that it can lift and empower people through sport. So that's still my coffee table.
Okay. All right. Nice. Yeah. Is there, you've written your own book. Tell us about your book very quickly.
Well, it's about my life story, the struggles, and it's an inspiration for young women or men to read how you can survive and just not give up and achieve what you want to achieve, your goals. So it's a book. It's called The Song for Banyana, because Banyana's been my life, and also I wrote a song for them in my band. So it's like a guide for people who want to get into football to know the struggles and what you can achieve. And yeah.
And you played the guitar and the drums too, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was a very good musician. My parents were very good, so I played in many bands, weddings, etc., guitar, drums, bass. But I think the best band we were in was Basadi Women of Jazz, who represented Africa at a World Traditional Jazz Festival in London. So music has always been the other link in my life. So I'm happy to have done well there as well.
What about, so I know about your book. Is there any other book you'd recommend that we should read?
Well, I love books about how people have achieved against all odds. So I love anything, whether it's political. I've read Mandy Venus stories, etc. I like to read books about people that inspire others. So I can't give you an exact title, but I do a lot of reading on people's success stories so we can keep motivating ourselves.
Who's been your best friend in football?
Oh, I've had many. I think Mark Hendricks was one. He used to play for Germiston Callies, and he was a good influence. Neil Tovey was great to work with. Many of the coaches come to the office, Arthur Zwane, all the guys. I've had a lot of great colleagues in football that made my life really far more pleasant and successful.
And who's your best friend outside of football?
Well, my best friend, I've got a few, but it would have to be my friend Leon, who we've made music together for many years. So he's someone you can rely on, and everyone needs a friend. So I've tried to be a friend to as many people as I can, because friends keep you going.
Well, I mean, I think you're so right and so well put in that. Just very, very quickly, is there one thing about you that we don't know that you'd like to share? Very quickly.
Well, that I'm a granny to two boys who've just turned 16 and 18, so that's the other part of my life, family. There's nothing like family. I love my family, and we're very tight, and that's so important for everyone, is to have family or create friends around you who are like family, because everyone needs support. Everyone worries, everyone is stressed, so we need to surround ourselves with people that can make our lives better.
Okay, and here's the last thing before we wrap up. How would you, Fran Hilton Smith, how would you like South Africa to remember you?
As someone who made a difference. That's what I want, and left a legacy. That's what I've tried to do. I think I've done that, and I want to keep doing it. I'm still doing leadership courses, motivational speaking. As long as I can keep moving and speaking, I want to make a difference, and that's the aim of my life.
Well, there's absolutely no question. You have made a difference. You have left a legacy. You've made a mark. You're an absolute champion, and you've championed a whole lot of other people. You've championed you've championed an entire industry, and you've championed that to real greatness. So wonderful talking to you. Great to connect with you once again, Fran Hilton Smith. Our Friday Fireside Chat is over. Goodbye.
Thank you, Alfred.
Minister reiterates government's law on doctor internships, and Ramaphosa speaks on stabilising Joburg's finances. Good evening. The Health Minister's reiterated that government cannot hire doctors who haven't completed an internship at a public health facility. Minister Aaron Motsoaledi was speaking